Gather around, freaks. It's Thursday night. For the second time this week, we're doing a show. This is, hey, did you see this one? It's us. We're here. It's Thursday. It's the holidays. I guess this is technically our Christmas episode. It's happy holidays from all of us to all of you. Welcome to Hey, Did You See This One? It is Fan-Cember, also known as Guest Miss. And once again, we have what?
It was funny. I was laughing at it because it was funny. What you said was funny to me.
And this goes on for way too long. So everybody just buckle in. I would like to welcome our guest this week, Arjun Trivedi. I said that right?
That's right. Nailed it.
Awesome. Welcome to the show. This, oddly enough, I don't know if you know this, but the whole reason we're doing Fan-Cember is basically because of you. I think you were one of the first people to make a request for a movie. Originally, it was Total Recall. There's no way we're getting out of doing Paul Verhoeven this week twice. But then you switched it at the last second to Starship Troopers, which is fine. And it's funny because this whole time for like a year, for some reason I thought you wanted to do the new Total Recall. I don't know. I'm sorry.
The old one, the original. I haven't seen the new one, but the old one, after I saw the movie 50-50 and the Quado joke at the end where he's trying to do the bandage on him, I'm like, God, that movie's amazing. But Starship Troopers is definitely close to my heart, so I'm happy that we're doing this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm going to make this
after a 2-year wait on the waiting list.
Yeah.
For however long it's been since you suggested Total Recall.
I feel like Matt Damon on the Jimmy Kimmel show. Every time brought on, it's we've run out of time.
Yeah. This is episode 116. We've bumped you 116 times, 115 times. So welcome. We're pleased to have you. The first thing that we like to do around these parts lately is I put up an image on Monday and Tuesday from the movie poster, but zoomed in to a part of the movie poster. And I have fans of the show guess what the movie is. This week, oddly enough, people had no problem figuring it out. Because even though the premise of the show is to do movies that aren't talked about that much, everybody knows what this movie is. But then I learned that some people have never seen this movie also. So anyway,
I would like to add the poster for this movie is very iconic in the sense that people know what the poster for this looks like, even if they haven't seen it. Even from just wandering the halls of Blockbuster when they were, 11 years old or whatever.
That's right. So I'm going to just read out some shout outs. This is the fan guessing game.
Congratulations! You have successfully guessed the correct answer, which is the answer you provided. Congratulations!
Congratulations! That's right. This is the fan guessing game outcome. First up is Craig Webster, friend of the show, former guest of the show. He said drugs. That's it. That's the message. He also said that he was going to message me back with a real message, but never did, which I figured would happen.
It's because he did too many drugs and forgot.
That's right. Friend of the show, Chris Murphy, future guest, got the answer and wanted us to say, do you want the apes to live forever? Which I believe is one of the last lines of the movie.
And he says, come on, you apes, you want to live forever? That's his thing that he says. And I think that someone said that to him. I think it was his, Michael Ironside, right? Doesn't he say that at some point? Yeah.
And I'll shout out he's got 2 podcasts that I've been on. One of the Trivial Debates, and I'm going to be on his other podcast, Hold Up, a movie podcast. Hold Up, I think is what it's how it's meant to be said. They do a similar thing to us, except for they cover 3 movies in a genre, and I'm going to be on, I believe, in January to talk video game movies. Gordon McDonald.
I think I'm going to be on in September. So stay tuned for that. Yeah.
You're going to be the Arjun of that show, where finally a year from now you show up to talk about. I think it's funny too, because the movies, I almost did the 3 movies that you are going to do, and it's like 3 cop movies, like 3 buddy cop movies. I think I could be wrong. That show seems to change all the time. Anyway, Gordon McDonald, he said, "Gord Ship Troopers. I just want Gary the dishwasher to know I still think about him. Do you want to know more?" And I forgot about the "do you want to know more" thing, so I said, yeah. And then he said, yeah. Stargord's Goopers. So thanks for that. Andrew Stiver did not get it, but I did want to point out that he said Smiling Helmet Sunset Watcher too, because of the placement of the photo looked like that. Aaron Hurdle is a huge fan, a friend of the show, also former guest. He just said, "Come on, man," but I knew that he would know what it is. And he said he's read the book 15 times and the movie's burned into his retinas. So,
you know who didn't read the book? Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, I know.
Of this movie.
I'm sure we're going to get into that in the body of the episode, because there's a lot of controversy about that. Matt Philp, he said, "Happy birthday to my main man, Jesus, praise be. Hashtag Hail Satan. Would you like to know more?" 2 other people.
I think we're going to get a lot of "would you like to hear more?" Would you like to hear more?
A couple people just randomly got it. Shout out to Sean O'Brien and Fletcher Camo. The Off Topic podcast, friends of the show, also got it. Doug and Kadeem. They basically just wanted me to plug their show. They wanted me to plug our show. There's a lot of love. I've been talking to them about podcasting stuff, so look out for them to appear on the show eventually. And then a unique thing happened. I use Mastodon to just like promote the show, and nobody ever responds. But this week somebody did. Somebody by the name of Mario Tor. He said, I asked him what his message would be, and he said, "Oh wow, if you could direct people to my Bandcamp and Mastodon accounts and ask them to follow me and my music, I would appreciate it a lot. I'm based in Hamburg. Thanks a lot." Mario Tor at mastodon.social, and I believe he's Mario Tor, Torre, on Bandcamp. So that is the correct movie guesses for this week. Lots of people guessed. Lots of people got it right.
So much housekeeping this week.
There's a lot of housekeeping. Last week only.
It's not usually like this, Arjun.
Yeah, last week only 2 people got it.
Yeah.
With that, I believe we're gonna. Do you want to skip over talking about the director this week? Since we went.
Well, I think that could be what we're talking about in terms of Paul Verhoeven and his preparation for this movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna play the sting anyway because it's great.
Okay.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound. Speed. Action!
I will say that
Nolan or Leon in the chat said something funny.
Oh.
What, 25 minutes of Paul Verhoeven last week, wasn't it?
That's right. Leon in the chat was
too much. Sorry.
Was our guest last week. I will say that if you want to hear a long discussion about Paul Verhoeven, go and listen to last week's episode. Arjun, do you have anything you'd like to add about Paul Verhoeven here that maybe we didn't cover last week? Do you have any factoids?
Not in particular about the director, but I actually don't know any of his other work.
You do. You just don't know you do.
Yeah.
Educate me.
RoboCop.
RoboCop, okay.
Showgirls.
Total Recall.
The Hitchhiker television show. A whole bunch.
Oh my god, Jason is obsessed with the Hitchhiker television show.
Here, I'll give you a brief history about why. Here's our
Hollow Man.
Here's our director talk and why that movie sticks in my head so much. When this movie and Showgirls and a lot of Paul Verhoeven were on Showcase when we were kids, the ad for The Hitchhiker scared the shit out of me every time it was on.
I don't even know if I'm familiar with it, to be honest, but I didn't really watch a ton of spooky TV when I was a kid.
I think it's
So
like
I don't know.
a horror show about a hitchhiker. Anyway, let's not
Sounds
linger
like
on
it
that
might
too
be.
much.
Anyway, the main thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that he did not read the book. I think we touched on
Oh
this a little bit
right,
last
yeah,
week, but
yeah.
um, I did a little bit of more uh, excavation of like why he didn't read it, and he read 2 chapters and he said it was so boring. It's so boring to me. It's just right-wing propaganda bullshit. I hate fascism and I'm going to throw this in the garbage. And so he read 2 chapters. I think something similar happened with RoboCop, where he only read a tiny chunk of it and threw it in the garbage, and then just decided to make his own thing. But what he did instead was he tried to take the source material and veil it and kind of hide what he was attempting to do with this movie, right? Which he said they would never let me make like a piece of fascist propaganda. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dress it up as something else, and I'm going to cast all beautiful, like pristine looking white people and have them be these heroes that are committing essentially war crimes for 2.5 hours, and try and trick the audience into thinking that they're supposed to root for these people when they're essentially committing atrocities, right? Like you can watch this movie and you can really see that the characters within it are, they're being poisoned to the point that there's a scene where they're like stomping on actual cockroaches in the
Yep.
movie, and the kids are like all happy about it. Like those aren't the enemy. Those are just things that look like the enemy. And it cuts
Everyone's
to the
doing their part.
exactly. Anyway, so I believe Paul Verhoeven grew up in, a time where he would have been very much affected by World War II, and not in a good way, obviously. I don't think anybody was affected in a good way by that war, but he does kind of inject some of his work with it. And I think this is the most sort of like brazen and in your face about it, where it's like, yeah, they're just Nazis and I'm going to make you like them.
So is the book
Howdy.
is the book originally this is what I always wasn't sure on. The book is like straight up this movie without satire, and then he satirized the book, or the book is satire, but Paul Verhoeven missed the point of the book and made this.
I think it's this. I think it's the first one. I
Yeah.
think that the
Okay.
book is like known and liked by people generally who are reading it for the wrong reasons, or they're
Like
they're
they're
kind of
like,
reading it the wrong way.
let's go invade
Yeah,
planets,
the book is
which
yeah,
is
the
like
book is
a
not
allegory.
satire. And even this, he it is obviously satirical, especially with the sort of like, it almost seems like what we have now on the internet. It's like, would you like to see
Would you
more?
like to see
It's
more?
like you're on a YouTube channel, and at the end it's like, click on these links to see more. It's
Huh.
basically the same thing. Um, but yeah, it's interesting, and he is a wildly interesting dude. And I think I sent you guys both a couple clips of the audio commentary that he does, and just how insane he seems as a director.
Did you
Well,
find this recently too when watching this? Because when I was seeing it and then I saw those like links that pop up, like if you like this, like click more. I didn't find it weird anymore. Like because I'm just so used to like watching
As a kid, you're like, what the
as a
fuck
kid,
is
I'm like,
this?
yeah,
yeah.
what is this? We
Yeah.
can watch
Well,
more of these like links and stuff like that.
as a kid, I just saw this as like an action movie. And now it was obviously satire. But you're right, the like, would you like to know more? Didn't feel out of the blue. And I remember as a kid thinking it was weird. And then anyway, let's talk about our brief history, because this sort of lends itself to that.
It's bleeding into it, yeah.
A brief history.
This is our brief history. It is a tradition around here. Let the guests go first. So, before I continue with what I was saying, Arjun, why don't you give us your brief history of Starship Troopers?
Okay. I mean, Starship Troopers was like a movie. It came out in 1997, from what I understand. So at that time, I was around like 10 years old, so clearly not age appropriate to be watching this movie. But I do remember I had my friend back in the day, Tyler Emoff, and of course it has to be one of my white friends for sure, because his parents could go to Blockbuster and pick a movie that has fighting death, and everything would be accepted and okay. So obviously we got that, went to the convenience store, got a couple bottles of Jolt Cola, got overly caffeinated way past our bedtime, and just like watched this movie. And I mean, I feel like at that time, like it was just interesting seeing like all that gore for the first time, and the special effects I think were like ahead of their time. And I just thought it was like an awesome movie, and I think that it shows like what you guys are talking about has a lot of themes involved in it, as well as showing like a dystopian future that goes on in it. And I thought that even now when I watched it again, like for this podcast, like there's a lot of things that I'm like, oh, like that I wasn't like too like tripped out about, but like I was tripped out about at that time. So it was great. I love that movie.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can identify with that. I'll just go next, just so I can finish the thought that I was saying. Like as a kid, I remember watching this, and I've got a storied history on this show of talking about how at this time I would have been in 1997. I would have been 12. I remember watching it. I remember vividly watching it at a birthday party at my friend Jacob's, who's been a guest on this show. He came and talked about Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks and this movie, weirdly enough, like feel like similar in a lot of ways. They both feel like a callback to like a 1950s, like big monster movie kind of vibe, sci-fi movie. And I remember watching Starship Troopers at age 12, even though I couldn't handle gore. I couldn't handle that kind of stuff. And being like, I'm fine with this for some reason. They watched, like immediately after they watched Darkman, and I had to leave the room because I was so squeamish when it came to gore and stuff. And that's pretty
Darkman arguably is grosser. Like, it is kind of grosser, yeah.
Okay, but I mean, like, I didn't really know that. I'm sure that it wouldn't really affect me now, obviously, because like I can pretty much handle whatever because I'm an adult. But this one, through the lens of a 12-year-old though, it just felt like a cool. Like I felt like, oh man, I'm getting to see like nudity and gore, and like I can't believe the parents are Jacob's parents are letting us watch this for his birthday, and there was no other movie like it at the time. You could easily clean this up a little bit and use it to sell action figures, is what I kind of learned from watching it today. Also, it's got
they did use it to sell action figures. This movie had an extensive toy line.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that the following four films, the four sequels, get worse and worse in quality.
They missed the point. Like the point of the movie is completely gone. It's similar to the RoboCop movies where they're like, people like it because it has a RoboCop in it, and it's like, no, the people like it because it's a good movie that is veiled in over the top and comedic and cartoonish gore, but it's dealing with actual with actual things that like affect people in a way that they don't realize it, right? So when this movie first came out, like a lot of it went right over people's heads, and they're like, I can't believe that they're making these people dressed up like Nazis. It's so silly and dumb, and you're like, no, that's the point, man. You're missing the entire point. And it's like, it seems silly now to talk about it because it's so obvious. And we talked about something similar to this last week, where it's like you watched it as a 12-year-old. We did Showgirls last week, Arjun, and we were talking about what differences there are watching that movie as an adult versus watching it as a kid. And this movie has, and you can even argue that RoboCop does as well. Total Recall, not so much. That's more of a straight action movie. But this movie,
that's another one I saw like way too young. Probably
yes.
RoboCop
all of his
is
movies,
the reason I can't handle gore in the first place, which is crazy.
He's not a director for children.
No,
you should never watch a Paul Verhoeven movie under the age of 10.
I had another two friends where they had like a basement with like an extensive movie library and like no supervision. So I've talked about this on the show. We'd watched a Terminator 1, which is like gory and has nudity. Watched like The Guyver and RoboCop and all these movies. And I honestly think that watching those movies too young psychologically messed something up in my head that made it so I was like afraid to see it on a shame level, but also on a like empathy level. Like I was afraid that like I could feel that like when somebody got hurt in a movie, I felt like a really hard empathy, but also I'm not supposed to be seeing this. So it's all part of it. I don't know.
This movie with Starship Troopers, you didn't get kind of that like scared, like freaked out kind of fear
That's just it. It probably was just like, oh man, this is awesome. I'm 12 years old. These guys are killing and there's boobies.
This movie also really does lean into it being cartoonish, right?
Yeah.
And it does have a lot of comedic moments that are super gory and off-putting, and some of the best practical effects for gore that you've seen for or since. It's like I can't get over the part where the guy gets his brain sucked out and you're seeing like his head sort of like cave in on itself. I'm like, that's amazing. It looks so good, and it makes me think of all the stuff in Total Recall that's also just as good. I did want
before we get into we're kind of moving into the.
I didn't get to do my brief history
that's
yet.
what I was going to say though. Go ahead and do your history, and then we can get to it.
My brief history, I remember seeing this movie very, very clearly for the first time, because up until this point, I wasn't really allowed to watch anything. Anything that had a gun in it, even, I wasn't really allowed to watch it unless it had a laser gun, like a Star Wars or a Star Trek. But for whatever reason, I guess my parents finally were like, I guess they're old enough. And it's weird because my sister is 3 years younger than I am. But as soon as I was allowed to watch something, she was allowed to watch something. So I was like, how is this? Were they using her age as a gauge or my age as a gauge, and why?
She was the litmus test. If she didn't freak out, it was fine.
But my parents are so weird. It's like they're completely okay with me watching somebody get their legs sliced off and people get chopped in half. People get their brains sucked out. But as soon as there's a nipple on screen, my dad pulls out the remote and starts fast forwarding it. Even the scene where they're just showering, like they're just standing there. There's nothing erotic about it. It's just a sort of a neutral shower where everybody showers, like all the grunts shower together, right?
It's not
my parents still do that.
Your parents still do.
It's either they turn the volume down, or they turn the channel. They're like, so Arjun, so how was school today? I'm like, I'm in school for like 10 years. Yeah.
Mom, I'm a medical doctor.
Yeah, I have a PhD. Like what the?
Yeah, like this unnecessary small talk is usually the way to go when some mild form of kissing is happening on TV.
Yeah. So I specifically remember the part where Michael Ironside is being sort of sucked down into the ground, and I'm like, oh my God, his legs, he's going to get pulled back out and his legs are going to be gone, and it's going to be so scary and gross. My parents did not fast forward through that or turn the volume down for that, but a scene of a bunch of people just showering and having a moment of like expository dialogue. We're not allowed to see this. I'm like, we could be missing context. I'm like a 12-year-old, like, I don't know what's happening, please. Anyway, that was the first time I saw it, and I do remember shortly after that, this was one of those movies in the same vein as like Rambo, RoboCop, Terminator. They all had a cartoon show that spawned off of it, and this one was no different. Like Verhoeven was sort of the master of franchise work, where like if you look at his body of work, he has more franchises that he basically started. If you wanted to put it up head to head with other directors, obviously the king is George Lucas, because just of everything how much Star Wars there is, but that's still one franchise. He's got RoboCop. I think there was a Total Recall. I mean, there is the sequel that came out years later. RoboCop had a cartoon show as well as multiple sequels. A video game just came out this year
for like a live action TV show.
TV show. Showgirls, the animated series. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it was called Stripperella, starring.
Yeah,
Pamela
but
Anderson.
then this show had a 3D animated television show called Roughnecks, which aired on Saturday morning, even though it was pretty gruesome. It wasn't really that PG. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up before we get off of the topic of how weird it was that there was just like franchises that were not for children that would sell toys and comics and cartoon shows and video games.
That's why I was surprised to find out that this had like I feel like I remember the arachnid action figure now, but this isn't a movie for kids, so like who are the toys for? Just like 20-year-olds at the time. People that
they're for children.
Yeah, that's what's crazy.
I had a RoboCop. I had a couple of the Starship Troopers. I had tons of aliens, and I didn't even see aliens until I was like a teenager.
Did you have an Elizabeth Berkley action figure where she's 100% nude and?
No, it's like the Ninja Turtles where you stick their head into their shoulder and then it pops out. It's like that, except she just does like the grinding move on the tile.
Oh, Paul Verhoeven. Never stop, never stopping. Okay, well, I guess we'll move on to the body of the episode because we've sort of just been talking about the movie anyway. But before we do that, I've asked the computer to give us a brief synopsis of the movie. Here's AI synopsis.
I got synopsis running down the plot.
Mobile Infantry fights Iraqi aliens. Rico rises through ranks, exploring militarism nonsense. Hallen's novel critiques of society, advocating civic to do.
So
I had no idea what I heard. The word Rico rises through the ranks at one point, and I couldn't understand anything else.
I had a hard, for some reason, the AI program I used to make that little sting didn't like this one. I was trying to do like a Cool Island song because he kept talking about going to that beach that they never show. Anyway, probably just kill that segment.
It's about dystopian future. They're probably knowing that we're onto them or something like that, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call from my wife who's locked out, and I'll let her in. And why don't we talk about the body of the episode?
Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
So just right at the top of the show, we do just get the federal network kind of giving us the lay of the land, and we get lots of the I'm doing my part propaganda, which honestly is one of the things that most people remember about this movie. I'm doing my part. Would you like to know more? And the arachnids. So I just have to go make sure my door's unlocked.
Well, you're forgetting one very important piece of dialogue in this movie.
What's
the best
that?
Line ever written in any movie ever made.
He got his brain sucked out.
No, they sucked his brains out. That's it. You can't butcher the line. It's so simple.
Sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Leon has said, Jolt Colam, damn, to Arjun. I also drank a lot of Jolt Cola as a kid, and that's probably why I'm the way I am now. Leon also said, feminist masterpiece status. It passes the basic Bechdel-Wallace test. And then said 1.5 out of 5 on a wider intersectional feminist discussion as per smart movie knowing degree having women.
Stay tuned
and
for
I definitely would not disagree, but in the movie's defense, none of the characters are three-dimensional. They are all cartoon characters that are made out of wood and cardboard.
Actually, I noticed something funny about Johnny. I don't know the actor's name, but he looks like what Matt Rife is trying to look like now. The comedian Matt Rife, who got like the chin implant, he's canceled right now for just being a terrible comedian.
Well, that's one of the things that he did on purpose. Paul Verhoeven did on purpose in terms of casting. He's like, I just want everybody to look like doll people. We talked about this last week a little bit as well, but this is the movie where he stops kind of treating actors like actors and starts treating them like actual props.
Like as a kid,
I think to the benefit of the movie.
As a kid, I loved Denise Richards, and as like a young man, but she almost looks like comically baby-faced in retrospect. Like she's like it almost.
Well, they look like they're drawn. They look like drawn comic book characters, and he went for that on purpose, right? Like he looks like the fucking doll from Team America. Like Casper Van Dien looks like the perfect man face or whatever. It's like that's what his face is. He's supposed to be playing a teenager in this movie, and he looks like he's a sculpture from the the Greek era, like a classic blockhead. But again, that's all by design, which is what makes the movie so funny. And I mean, we should probably start to get into the plot a little bit as we talk about these things.
Right. So they're on Clanathu for the invasion. They're invading a planet, and we're getting it through the eyes of basically the local news equivalent, and basically everything starts to go to shit, and then it's like we get a time jump backwards to 1 year earlier, and it's basically a class full of new cadets. They're in school. They haven't really decided what they're going to do with their lives yet. Obviously,
they're in high school. They're not cadets. They're just teenagers.
Right. They're just in regular high school. Sorry.
Yeah.
It is a who's who of people, though. from the 90s. Neil Patrick Harris is there, Denise Richards, Casper Van Dien. Who else is in the class at the beginning? The blonde girl who's in she's in like your Road Trip or something. Is she the girlfriend in Road Trip? She becomes captain at the end. Anyway.
Oh, Elizabeth Smart, is that her name?
Yeah, Elizabeth Smart. We see Rue McClanahan as a teacher, which is crazy. That's
Golden Girl.
What's her face from Golden Girls?
Well, I don't want to just kind of zip through the high school part because I think it is very important.
No, I know. I just wanted to mention that the who's who of 90s teen.
Well, yeah,
stars.
Michael Ironside is
of
a
course,
teacher who's missing an arm, and I mean, yeah, our Golden Girl is missing her eyes, and she's clearly got burns all over her face, and it's like. One of the great parts about this moment is it seems that every adult in the movie has been horribly scarred because they've all kind of put in their time for the Empire. Or is it? It's a Federation, sorry, not an Empire.
So it seems like this is how all high schools are in this like universe, like right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
I think this is also supposed to be a particularly nice high school because they're all clearly
Buenos
rich.
Aires, which is
and they're all white for some reason.
I was reading that this is called like a stratocratic society, which is like a government that is essentially ruled by the military.
Mm-hmm.
And like certain examples like in history that are given of it are like the Spartans had like a stratocratic society where military leaders like literally run the entire like country. And like I think now there's, like, very few, like there's a couple countries in the world that exist like that, but that's what this is showing apparently.
Yeah, and it's like the entire society is founded by veterans of war, and this war has been going on for however long in the movie, and the very idea of patriotism is it's you're heralded as a hero, but then you then see these rich people, Casper Van Dien's parents, who are like, you don't have to fight to be a citizenship, and he's like, I want to earn my citizenship, so he's being affected by the propaganda very early, but he also is only doing this because he wants to follow his girlfriend into battle, right?
Exactly.
And to prove that he can be a citizen on his own without his parents' money. Because his dad wants him to go to Harvard, I think. He's like, you're going to Harvard like I did.
We do learn that he's like he's not like a math smarts guy. He's drawing on a tablet at the beginning that I thought was a really accurate representation of like how tablets are now. Like they kind of nailed it in 97. They had no way of really knowing how you could like draw a picture and then send it to somebody else and it would like animate it. Like that's pretty common nowadays. But it's interesting that they show him as this like kind of artistic guy. He's kind of like romantic with his girlfriend, and he's like bad at math and bad at science and stuff.
I think he's just supposed to be dumb, but he's very comfortable around dissecting a bug.
And he's awesome at sports, which we'll cover in a minute too. Like,
with that chin, obviously he's going to be good at
he's
sports.
a Chad. He's going to get into it. He's light-haired Chad. He's going to get into a dark-haired Chad, obviously, which happens. So during this scene, Michael Ironside is sort of talking about what it means to be a citizen. It's not so much an exposition dump, but sort of, I think, as far as Paul Verhoeven got into the book, where he's talking about like we must like go into these worlds and we must, defeat the enemy. But then like after that, like I was finding it a little bit hard to follow. It's like, do I need to like absorb all this? But as soon as that like monologue ends, it just becomes an action movie. Just all the lines are like very Paul Verhoeven, like very easy to follow. I kept thinking of since we just watched Showgirls, I kept thinking of how like clunky the dialogue was in that, and it happens in this pretty frequently. If it's not an exposition dump trying to move the plot along, if they're just talking to each other, it's very like catchy lines.
But we get a decent amount of like world building as too,
True.
right? Where we see these weird things that I've never read the book either, so I don't know how connected it is, but you can be telepathic for some reason, and that's valuable to military strategists. And so Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris
Carl.
he has
Colonel
Carl. He has
psychic
psychic powers, and he can like control his ferret with his mind, and he's trying to see if Casper Van Dien has any sort of telekinetic, or wait, telekinesis when you, what is it? Which one's the one? There's telepathy and then there's telekinesis. One of them is moving things with your mind.
He's got the thing where
telepathy
he can
is
put a message in your mind.
Yeah, so that one, he's trying to see if Casper Van Dien has any sort of aptitude for telepathy, but he doesn't. He's just as bad at that as he is at math or whatever. But again, the goal is that, Denise Richards' character dreams of being a pilot. Neil Patrick Harris is so intelligent that he's too valuable to the Earth to not put his talents to use as a war game specialist.
But he'll never see active combat though. He'll always
he's
basically a scientist / strategist.
He's like a military strategist, where he's going to be in charge of everything one day, right? That's what literally the guy's like, I'll be saluting you the next time we see you, kid.
And then at the end, he's dressed like a literal evil Nazi. They're all kind of dressed like Nazis throughout the movie, like when they're in their gear. But he shows up with like the tall collar and the long coat, blonde, very Aryan looking.
And these guys have psychic abilities too, right? Like the military intelligence that Neil Patrick Harris is part of, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on Neil Patrick Harris too. I wanted to mention this in my brief history, but I watched Doogie Howser as a kid, and I believe he just disappeared for years and years. And this is sort of where he re-enters acting. And then after this disappears again pretty much until Harold and Kumar.
He didn't disappear. He was on Broadway doing musicals.
It was Broadway? That's what he was doing?
Yeah, he wasn't just like, I'm going to go into hiding for a while. I'm going to go be a hermit, and I'll come back when I'm good and ready.
Up until a few years ago, I pretty much only knew television. So that's what it looked like from my point of view. It looked like he kind of came and went.
I know, but you could just look it up for 2 seconds.
No.
Just being like, he disappeared.
I'm going to have you correct me instead.
Okay. That's fine. I'm fine with it.
I know you are.
But yeah, he has been active his entire career. When he's not on screen, he's doing other stuff, right? Which is why anytime you see him do anything where he's dancing and singing, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that he was on Broadway for like a decade while he was growing up.
So right before when they're dissecting, I wanted to just mention this as sort of part of the brief history element too. Remember how I said like I couldn't handle gore? I also couldn't handle puking. And in this first like 10 minutes of the movie, we see a guy get bisected, and then Carmen pukes into a dissected bug. And I'm wondering how I handled this at like a sleepover birthday party.
And you get plenty of warning that she's about to puke too. It's not like it's not like an out of it's not like a Nomi from Showgirls where she just like turns and barfs out of nowhere, and you're like, oh god. This is like, oh god, she's gonna throw up.
Paul Verhoeven loves showing like pretty visceral, gross, real moments. It's kind of what I learned from these two movies.
He also loves gore. Like he loves having a good dummy head, it's one of his strongest suits as a director.
Of them in this one,
yeah. Oh man, when they're going through like the Mormon base or whatever, this is another thing we learn early on in the movie, that humanity basically started this war. They went to go colonize a planet, not knowing it was already occupied by an indigenous species that is the bugs, and it's these but it's not just anyone, it's a bunch of Mormons. It's like a Mormon space mission or whatever, where they build a giant church to Joseph Smith on this planet, and they basically like disrupt the biome, I guess, or like the ecosystem of the planet by being there. And so the humans fight back, and then they thrust themselves into a war. And I don't know, it's so weird because you don't really understand how the technology of the arachnoids, or are they called arachnoids or arachnids? Just arachnids? Okay.
So like just before we touch on that, because it's hilarious, we do get the futuristic indoor football scene where we meet.
I think it's called Laser Ball or something.
Yeah, like of course it's everything has a laser in front of it, including their version of laser tag in the
that football looks like it weighs like 100 grams or something. Like it's like so light.
Yeah,
it really does. My theory about that,
it's like a Nerf ball.
I'm not gonna bother with the theories theme for this, but I think the gravity's like probably turned down in there or something, because there's no way that he can continuously do those giant 8-foot flips.
Maybe, but you know, the more TikTok I watch these days, the more I realize that the human body is capable of shit that I never thought possible.
That's
And
true.
I've seen people do like triple like front backflips where they jump forwards and flip backwards somehow. I'm like,
That's right.
how did he do that?
But how high in the air did he do it? It's either the gravity's turned down a little bit, or like the floor's bouncy or something.
Let's not
All the
forget that
scientific inaccuracies in this movie. They're gonna be like, no, we need to have the 100-gram Nerf ball there or to match the gravity because mass in a vacuum and no gravity is the same.
That's why we have a doctor on this week to just pull it apart.
Dr. Arj.
So during this football sequence, we get introduced to Xander. Xander, like I said, dark-haired Chad versus light-haired Chad. They sort of go at it in the football arena. He moves out of the way. Xander goes flying into the stands, but then he starts talking to Carmen, and then did you notice that Carmen yelled, "Yeah, home run!" when when Johnny got a touchdown? I'm not a sports guy, but I thought that must have been put in the movie on purpose. She said home run.
Oh, yeah. I never really thought about that before. I'm also not a sports person, but I was like, oh, maybe that's what they call it.
Maybe that's what they call it when he
Did
ran
they
into
just do
the
that
end
something
zone.
about like she just is into him and is clueless about the sport type thing?
It's probably that.
Yeah.
It's probably that. They're just
It was
trying to be
it
like,
could have
she's
been
really smart, but she's also not smart.
Or it was an ad lib, and Denise Richards fucking is actually dumb in real life.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rico.
We're talking about Dr. Christmas Jones.
Rico catches the ball and wins the big game. This is when we move to Johnny at home. He gets the join the fight pamphlet. The parents find it. He wants to go into the galaxy and see it. See, this is it's interesting that you mentioned earlier that it's like he's going to join for the girl, but also I kind of got the vibe that he also actually he's got that like artistic brain a bit. I feel like he would want to not go to school. He would want to go.
I mean, you keep saying he's got an artistic brain, but I think that was primarily the technology that was doing all the work for him there. I don't think that he is like an artist.
Okay. Well, you know, dummies want to see the world.
Because remember, he draws that picture and then she immediately animates it so that it fucks up the drawing that he did in a better way. So like she's like, I think that it's just some sort of program.
Okay.
But who knows? I could be wrong. He could be an artist.
At any rate, the parents are fully against this. Dad wants him to go to Harvard, and he suspects that Mr. Radchek, Michael Ironside's character, the army teacher, wants all the kids to go.
Isn't it crazy that if they just named him his actual real life name, it would have been a cooler name?
Would have been a better name. Mr. Ironside.
You just want to follow Professor Ironside to the battle on the alien world, don't you? Yeah, so what?
Yeah,
and
so
then he
what?
gets a literal Ironside later when he gets a robot hand.
When he gets a robot arm. And not even the only robot arm in the movie to show that the old people have all had to deal with these horrible wars.
Yeah. I do like the detail though there, because it's like I was in the infantry. It's what made me the man I am today. And then he has literally only one limb left, like Darth Vader. Like he's got one arm left, and both his legs are gone. He's got a robot hand, and then he's got one regular hand. And then the teacher, the I guess biology teacher, she's all burnt, and you're like, okay, so she probably got into some sort of lab accident, right, where she accidentally cut like a acid sac on something she was dissecting, and it burst in her face or something. Like you can kind of create these weird little moments of how they got messed up in your imagination, which is great.
Or she saw active duty, and then it's very clear that
she could have got
alien.
She could have got injured anyhow, but my brain is like, oh, maybe she got it in a lab accident, and then she couldn't actually work in the field anymore, so they like go teach high school students how to cut open whatever, like the babies. I don't even know if those are babies or what. Yeah,
they're just like giant cockroaches at that point. Mm-hmm. They kind of look like carpet beetles, actually. So we get the scene with the dance. We get the sense that Dizzy likes Rico, Johnny. Johnny's with Carmen Ibanez. Xander's there. Diz wants to bang Johnny. There's a bit of a love triangle that doesn't really get a payoff because both of the like forlorn lovers just get killed. But Johnny and Carmen never get back together. Do those just right quick? Do those any of these characters show up in the sequels, or do they just move to different Roughnecks?
The second movie, well, the Roughnecks is the name of Rico's squad, but
Right,
so
I know, but that's...
well, I don't know. So the second movie, nobody's back. The third movie, Rico's back, and then the two movies that come after that are animated. So I don't know. I haven't seen them.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I forgot the fact that the other yes, okay, that's cool.
But the other two movies suck, and I can't remember a single detail from them except for Johnny Rico's big old chin. Oh, I did have something I wanted to say, but I've forgotten it now. But it's fine. It might come back to me at some point.
Well, Rico just...
Oh, I wanted to say, so this is the moment where the audience, in all test audiences, completely turn against Denise Richards, and never... They said they tried tweaking the editing like in every which way, and this just shows how like shitty and fucked up human beings are as a society, that she has this sort of, playful glances with this other character who then she later on befriends, and they're sort of semi-flirtatious, and they had a scene where they did imply that they had sex, but then they have a full-on sex scene between Rico and Diz, and nobody ever felt the same way about Rico as they did about Denise Richards' character, and they had to remove that sex scene. They even removed scenes where they would kiss, and the test audiences still were like, that fucking temptress, like, fuck her, I hope she gets her brain sucked out. And it's like, oh man. And no matter what they did to try and repair that, they couldn't do it. And people to this day still like hate that character because of the fact that she dumped her boyfriend to follow her dreams, which is just like, oh man, come on.
From my point
come
of
on,
view,
society.
I didn't really hate that character, and I don't really care, like,
I'm not saying every single person ever. I'm just saying that as like a sweeping review.
Are you just getting the Johnny Walker Red Label out right now?
No, I'm getting the Glen Morgan.
Oh, awesome. Glen Morgan?
Yeah.
Nice. Welcome to the show. We like to drink here. That's great. I liked
our sponsor or no?
I wish. I just have like a giant case.
If you're hearing out there, Glen Morgan, please send more.
You should say, please. Did you see this one?
Please, did you see this one? I liked her character for the most part. I can't wait to talk about the little fan theory about her role in the actual invasion element, but I didn't think that it was too, like, for high school students, that kind of stuff happens in every movie. It's crazy that the test audience is turned on her so hard when that's a trope.
Well, I think it was worse when there was like an actual sex scene, but it was, when you think about it, to balance out the sort of the separation of the two. It's like, okay, Johnny is moving on and so is she, but having her being shown to move on was so much more detrimental for the story and the characters than to just have Johnny do it. And it's like dumb. And I think by today's standards, and just like as an evolution of like being able to watch movies and process things a little bit better, most people would be completely fine with it now. But in the 90s, when this movie came out, it was just like people were lighting torches and getting their pitchforks out. Like, what the fuck?
So we see a little bit more of the love triangle happen. Johnny just wants to be friends with Dizzy, blows off her dance. He wants to talk to Radchek. Radchek is trying to lay some knowledge on Johnny about the situation, and Johnny tells him he wants to join up. Then he finds Carmen talking to Xander, and Xander is also going to be a pilot, which is what Carmen wants to do. And this is at the point that I realized
you're going to go to the academy? It's like a real Luke Skywalker moment where she's so excited.
Johnny's name is Johnny, not Rico. And Johnny's going to go with Carmen to sign up to be a citizen. And the kids all enroll and take the pledge. And Carl, Neil Patrick Harris's character, Colonel Carl, I just fuck, that's so funny to me. He becomes intelligence. Johnny gets infantry. And this is, I believe this is the part where they're talking to the guy who's missing the legs and the arm. I thought that the practical effect for the hand, even though it was obviously like plastic, it didn't look as cheesy as it does in some other movies where they use plastic for like metal. I thought that a lot of the practical effects in this movie like they went a little bit above and beyond just to make it look a little bit
The budget
nicer.
for this movie was absolutely fucking insane, and I want to talk about the special effects a little bit because this is the first movie that Paul Verhoeven was forced to actually have to use CGI. Like he's never had to use it
I
before.
complain about, but let me get. I want to make a guess. I was watching the credits at the end. Did they make sculptures of things and then CGI use the sculptures as the models for the CGI or something? Because this movie doesn't.
Well, that's what they usually do for most movies.
Well, it looks like.
I mean, not really
right.
anymore, but so they used to always do it.
CGI, but if you watch something that heavily relies on CGI from this era, like Fifth Element, it looks bad now. But this movie looks great.
I mean, Paul Verhoeven has a very high standard when it comes to how things look visually. So if something didn't look right, he would just cut the scene rather than have it be in, you know?
Yeah.
And this movie has tons and tons of practical effects, but there is digital here and there, but you know, there isn't really any digital where you're like, oh, that's not great. There's a few moments, but then there's, you know, the scene where Rico is on top of the giant bug and he's like holding on and shooting.
Yeah.
It cuts a couple of times here and there where you're like, it doesn't look perfect, but it doesn't look bad. But then it cuts to him and he's on a real thing. He's on
an
right?
animatronic, yeah.
But even like the spaceships, you know, they made miniatures.
Those are miniatures, yeah.
But they didn't even I think they called them maxitures because they were huge, or bigatures is what they called them, because they were technically miniatures, but they're like the flagship. The flagship was 18 feet long.
Oh, okay.
Like the length of a fucking swimming pool. This thing is
noticed
huge.
in the credits there was a digital effects team that just did the scene where the asteroid comes and hits the ship and the ship veers off path. Like there was a whole team that just did that one shot. The credits for this movie are actually kind of run like an MCU movie a little bit. Like it just goes on and on and on, and there's just different teams, and you know what I mean? Like it was actually kind of interesting to see. I mean, I don't like watch credits.
Asteroid. I heard that there's like a fan theory that when you heard about this,
I was going to get to it when it happens, but if you want to,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
If you want to talk about it now, I'm fine with that too. But I want to talk about that because Steve probably will unlock the
I know exactly what you're talking about.
All right.
But yeah, I want you to tell me about it so then I can respond.
Why don't you tell me? Okay, let's talk about it when we get to it.
Yeah.
So we get back to where are we at here? Carl changes the. Sorry. Okay, so back at home, Johnny and his dad are arguing some more. Johnny's like, I'm going to join the military, and the dad's like, if you leave here, you're cut off for good. Carmen and Johnny say goodbye to each other. And
well, I want to have a head bow of respect for the moment where all three of them walk out like it's a fucking sitcom, and they're like, let's promise that we'll be friends forever, and they're like, forever.
When she gets in that ship,
well, this is doomed to fail.
Speaking of the couple bad scenes in this movie, when she's in that like elevator that goes like front to back, and she goes away from the screen, it looks so bad. And then I think
it doesn't look so bad; it just looks weird.
I think another thing that's really for as ahead of its time as those tablets were at the beginning, the fact that she's like, "Don't forget to write." Is such a weird thing that we don't say to each other anymore because we're so connected by like social media and instant messaging and email.
We also have to think that our language at that point when this movie was being made wouldn't have any kind of vernacular for that. We wouldn't have a way to express how we would contact somebody.
Text me in 6 seconds. I'm texting
exactly
you
like
right
I don't
now.
even know if texting was like the word text was not even a word yet.
Think it was.
But he might now say like I'll message you or something, right?
Yeah.
But like to say I'll write you something, it's like you're not really gonna.
But then we find out in 20 minutes that they can just video message each other. But it's a whole thing where you like record, because that's what they used to do back in the day when you'd go to war, like in the military, like.
Well, she's in space. You don't know how long it takes for a message to get from one person to another, right?
That's true. But like, it's very much the like Earth military of now or of yesteryear, where people would like get a camera and record themselves in the middle of the desert in Iraq during the Iraq War and then send that home on VHS or DVD. That's sort of the idea of the future that they had at this point. The difference is it just they send it on. It's the future because it's on a tiny disc. It's on a little disc. We'll get to that in a moment. We get another shot of after they all say goodbye to each other.
So according to Leon in the chat, Bigatures was first used by Weta Workshop of Lord of the Rings fame, which I assume that's definitely correct. I just
they were probably working on.
I heard it used for this movie as well, but I don't know if I heard it in a podcast or if I actually heard it on the special features. So it might have been that I'm mixing up information.
They would have probably been starting to.
They definitely had giant ones though.
The first Lord of the Rings at this point, though, right?
Yeah, because I think they shot the movie over the course of like 2 full years, and then we're doing reshoots for another like. The first one came out in 2001, I believe, and then the other 2 came out a year after. 2
years after each one.
Yeah, well, like the one the next year and the one the year after that. So they would have been working on it the entire time, right? But it would have been all like the digital stuff afterwards, right? But like Weta did both, I believe, because I remember watching the heck out of those extended edition special features where it's like, here's 7 hours of special features.
Watch the 4-hour version of the movie on DVD and then watch 7 hours of special features.
Yeah, and you're just like, I remember there's this one where it's like Peter Jackson goes to an actual soccer game, a football game, and he tries to get the entire crowd to start doing like an what are they called? Urukai chant. And he's just like, I want you to say ook ga doof ga ook, and like he's trying to get like 10,000 and 20,000 people to all yell this, and it worked for the most part, and they did use it in the movie, but they were saying that they had to do a lot of scrubbing to get rid of some real colorful language. People in the stands being like, get off the fucking field.
That's funny. That's great though. That's a good way to like record all the orcs doing.
Yeah, but not if like the majority of the people there really want to watch a football game and you're just slowing down the process by being like, hello, I'm Peter Jackson. I don't know if you've heard of me yet because the movies haven't come out yet. But can you guys do my Saruman chant?
This is
Leon says Lord of the Rings started pre-production in 1997.
There you go.
So it would have been the same exact year as this.
Very reasonable that they were working on both simultaneously. Or finishing up on this and then starting to work on
this came out, right, on 97, so
this was probably started in 95.
Came out in 97? The first Lord of the Rings?
No, the pre-production, so that's when they're like starting to design things and starting to write stuff.
Scripts, building sets.
Yeah, getting things ready to shoot. Together.
Like they're in pre-production for like Avengers 5 right now. That's a whole other can of worms. Jonathan Majors is out. Kang is dead. Anyway, so we get another sort of series. I feel like the little interstitial showing like with the news channel or the internet or whatever you want to call it is sort of like the act breaks in this movie, because there are pretty two distinct like moments where it's sort of the vibe changes, and it is after these sort of act breaks. Apparently in this universe, there's live executions on TV. There's a show about psychics. They show the bugs murdering cows with like the hilarious censored picture over it, which they do a couple times, which is a good callback.
Apparently they didn't have that censored originally, and
it was just brutal.
They couldn't get it. They couldn't get it passed, and then. But honestly, though, it's way funnier with the censor bar. Like,
it is.
It makes it so much more
because the blood splatter on the wall behind is so ridiculous.
Is there any way to get it like anywhere else to watch, like on YouTube, or is there a way you can?
Arjun wants to look at a cow getting eviscerated.
Yeah, while we're at it, the sex scene between
man. That's not right. No.
Xander and Denise Richards, is that anywhere? So I can avoid it. I just want to know to stay away. I want to know where to stay away from, which I'm sure is what Arjun means too, because he wants to stay away from the cow getting mutilated. And Leon in the chat says I'm right. So 1995 was pre-production for this film because I'm right. And okay, I'm just goofing.
Is that how it's going to work?
That's how it's going to go from now on.
Okay, we're no longer allowed to ever say that Jason's right because he will just explode about
My head will get bigger and bigger.
I also don't think anyone said you were wrong, so it's fine.
That's true. Thank you. This is the part where they mention Port Joe Smith, which I thought was a funny way to put it. The Mormon extremists they disregarded the fact that they're on an alien planet and they all get fucking brutally murdered. There's a few scenes in this movie where it just shows the aftermath of the aliens, and I love it because
it's just like a sloppy mess of, because the aliens don't eat you, right? They just kill you.
They just kill you and
eat you,
cut you up
and suck your brains out.
Suck your brains
out. We get introduced. So now this is what I mean by the like act break goes and sort of the vibe of the movie changes. Now we're showing the characters in their respective like boot camps. The infantry, that we focus more on the infantry. We meet Clancy Brown, who is like the sergeant of the infantry drill instructor guy. He's very cruel. He's like beating people up. He's like, does anybody want to step to me? And like the guy who's clearly from like a space.
Which one of you thinks that you could take me down?
It's like, I could do it. Man, Clancy Brown is so good. I love that guy.
Yeah. His name is Lieutenant Zim, I think.
Yeah.
He's got a good name. It's like
This
Lieutenant
is the
Zim.
same guy from the Shawshank Redemption, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like well, not for the warden, but like one of the.
He's like one of the head guards.
He's one of the head guards, who's always like beating people up.
His
Brown
name is Sergeant Zim. But
Clancy
I think
Brown,
at the end of the movie, they call him Private Zim, which infers that he like took a demotion in order to be able to get into the field to fight, which is kind of cool. He's the one that finds the brain bug.
He this big beefy country boy tries to step to him and fight him. He breaks his arm and puts him down. And then is it Dees that shows up then and tries to square off with him and almost takes him out? Because she moves there to be next to Johnny because she's got a huge crush on Johnny. And between the two, Denise Richards' character, Carmen, feels more like, more like a big brain, kind of smart, like wants to be a pilot. And then Dizzy feels like the girl next door tomboy who would be more fun to like be around and hang out with.
More compatible for him, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah. Which sometimes is like compatibility doesn't always work like that, right? That you want what you can't have in a lot of ways. So, they make more sense together, but obviously Johnny's got it bad for old Denise Richards. But who I have it bad for? I have it bad for Jake Busey, who plays Ace. Jake Busey.
Jason
rules.
loves a man with big teeth.
Giant teeth. Just big old teeth and a fucking little spiky haircut and looks like the son of Gary Busey and kind of talks like him too.
That's because he is. He is the son of Gary Busey. He was all over the place back during this era, right? Like there was a good chunk of time. And I used to think that him and Matthew Lillard were the same person. Like I legitimately thought they were the same guy.
They both have big, goofy horse faces. What'd you say, Arj? Sorry?
What other movie was he in?
One of the big ones around this time for me was The Frighteners with a Peter Jackson movie where he plays a ghost. He's a murderous ghost.
With spiky hair.
With spiky hair, yeah.
Is that the one with Michael J. Fox?
Yes, Michael J. Fox can see people who are about to die have like a number on their head, and he can also talk to ghosts. It's a real sort of got like Ghostbusters energy to it. It's quite good.
He was in Twister.
Jake Busey was in Twister? Was he? Oh my god. I'm trying to think of like the ones that everybody would know, but like the ones that I know, I don't think, like Identity like is one that I have seen a few times. Twister. He was just one of the lab techs. Okay. He didn't even have a name in Twister. His name in Twister is Mobile Lab Technician.
That's crazy because that movie came out like 1 year earlier. That's like 96.
Yeah, well, he hadn't fully told everybody that he was Gary Busey's son yet. He's like, I know what you guys think. And yes, I did inherit these teeth from my father.
His movie was a raunchy comedy from the early 2000s called Tomcats, which I vaguely remember. I think that's a Jerry O'Connell movie. Yeah, I remember. And Shannon Elizabeth. I remember this thing. It's just like American Pie. A bunch of college kids are being gross. I think that's what people would know him from. I'm looking at his.
I know him from this movie we're talking about right now, the best movie ever made, Starship Troopers.
Steve's first 5 out of 5, and he doesn't give number ratings.
But yeah, I mean, once we start to get introduced to all these different soldiers, and then it doesn't. I do like the fact that it's not like they stick to the same group of soldiers the entire time. There's a point later on
where there's like a new influx.
Where
Gabriel from The Walking Dead shows up.
Yeah, Sugar Williams. Sugar Watkins, not Sugar Williams. He shows up with like another squad, and like that, I think it's Michael Ironside's squad, and that's when you kind of get that sort of rush, like, oh man, this really is all of humanity coming back to fight the bugs.
Yeah, they're more seasoned too. Like he even has the like claw on a necklace, but that's in the third act, brother. Johnny, sorry. So Ace is like a loudmouth. You think that he's going to be a bully at first, but then he immediately befriends Johnny, which is like subverted my expectations weirdly. And I've seen this movie before, I was like, oh man, he's going to be a bully. And then I was like, oh yeah, he's just kind of a lovable doofus. And then the guy who got beat up, we see some more futuristic technology where the guy who got beat up by Clancy Brown has like a thing on his arm that's just like gel.
Yeah. Now, Arjun, as a medical doctor,
I was curious about this.
How the fuck does this thing work? And is it real?
It's a real prosthesis, of course. It makes sense.
So he's got like this, like it's like a bubble on his arm that Zim broke.
Some blue gel.
It's just like a liquid in there, and I guess it's there to like promote healing, right, for the bone.
I mean, nanotechnology is like one of these things that's like up and coming in medicine now, where this kind of stuff, I think it might be like not super far-fetched. Like I think some of that can possibly happen.
So you're telling me a Bacta tank is going to happen eventually, like from Star Wars,
or the Bacta tank in this very film?
That's true, but I want us to bring up Star Wars at least once.
Yeah.
Listen, Star Wars walked so that Starship Troopers could run. Okay. And we all know that that's true. It's a true fact.
Oh, Leon in the chat was talking about some movies that Jake Busey's that had brought up Roadhouse 2. Which is funny. And in 2015, Denise Richards and Jake Busey were in a movie called A Christmas Reunion about high school sweethearts. Which sounds...
Were they high school sweethearts? Imagine it was a Starship
awful.
Troopers Christmas reunion.
Hey, it would work.
A high school reunion, sorry. I mean, there is kind of a high school reunion at the end of this movie. Okay, so we're in the classic cafeteria sequence.
Yep.
Our expectations are subverted, and then we get kind of thrown into boot camp life, and it's great, and it's so good, and
knife
I like
throwing,
all of it.
obstacle course.
Well, we need to talk about the knife throwing scene because it is extremely important,
right?
Because there's a callback at the end of the movie that we need to acknowledge.
You don't bring a knife to a nuke fight, and what does he get for his line there, Steve?
He says, "Put your hand on that wall." And Mr. Krabs himself says, "Put your hand on that wall," and then he throws a knife into his hand. And I believe the line is something to the effect of, "An enemy cannot hit a button if he cannot use his hand, or if his hand is immobilized," or something like that.
That's like exactly it.
Yeah.
It's a great effect too, the way that so I watched the director's commentary with the writer as well, and it keeps kind of like flipping back between actors and the director and the writer, but during this sequence they explain in great detail how they accomplished this effect, and they just had his hand up there, and then they had a quick cut where they switch it with a fake hand, and like they use digital effects to like make this all work, but they just shot an actual gun with a tube with a knife in it, and like a hydraulic rifle essentially that shot a knife into a fake hand in the wall, like right next to him too. I'm like, holy shit!
They couldn't just like glue it on, like they did.
They wanted to have it go in.
If it was like hand like that, like on it.
Well, it's not his real hand that gets shot, but
no, I mean but they put because you said it's a prosthetic hand, and then just like put his hand. Okay. Wow.
What I thought was going to happen was Clancy Brown was going to like throw it between his fingers, but when he put his hand up, his fingers were together, and I was like, "Wait a second."
But you've also seen him already like break a guy's arm like in half, and then also like choke out Dizzy with his knee.
Yeah,
to the point that she's got a massive bruise on her neck for the next 3 scenes,
which is something they didn't really need to do. Even like obviously, it makes sense that they did it, but it's this movie has those little touches. Like
it's I mean, that is something that I appreciate so much because I remember that so vividly as a kid, seeing the bruise on her neck and being like, "Holy fuck!" Like he hurt her. Like he didn't just like mock injure her in front of everybody. He put some actual pressure down, and so it shows who Zim is. It shows who she is,
Leon.
but it also shows how hectic this training is and how like what the expectations are, I guess.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I think that all the details of this entire sort of it's not really a montage, but it is a collection of small scenes.
Well, they're going over the obstacle
gives you so much
course,
information,
and Dizzy comes up and just like pushes Jake Busey and Johnny into the mud, and Jake Busey also like. The reason why he's like you can't bring a knife to a nuke fight is because he's throwing knives and he just can't get them to stick in, and everybody else has like no problem. He's such a loudmouth that's sort of what happens to him end up getting a knife through his hand. The next scene is the shower scene. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about this little bit here?
The shower scene? Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
No, I mean the boot camp part. Before we go to because there's a lot packed into the shower scene.
No, just like I really like a lot of the acting in this as well. I can't remember the character's name, but the sort of like the cute short guy who like can't stop laughing, and then when he's like he goes up to him and he's like, "Is there something funny about this?" And then he gets him to run away, and he's like, "I want you to run all the way around this entire thing," and he does this sort of like, oh god, like this defeated shoulder shrug, and he just smacks him with this baton. He's like, "Oh, go!" And then another guy comes out and immediately whips out a baton and starts chasing him with the baton to get him to keep running. Oh my god, it's so funny.
That guy is from stuff too. Something Levin.
Matt Levine.
Pull up his name.
Matt Levin.
Right quick here.
His name is
Levin.
Kitten Smith.
Kitten Smith. His eyes are very striking, and he's in. I guess he's in Tropic Thunder, but that wouldn't be what I know him from. Just quickly looking at his IMDb here.
I don't know. Oh, he's mostly a voice actor. That's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know him from anything, to be honest, other than this. Oh, he's in a bunch of Star Trek. That's definitely where I've seen him from.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's just a Star Trek guy. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that moment because
I know him from Blossom.
Very satisfying.
He was in an episode of Blossom. That's why I recognize him, because I had a podcast about
he's one of your Blossom buddies?
Yeah. Arjun, I had a podcast about the television program Blossom. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, of course.
I reviewed every episode with my friend Craig, friend of the show, guest of the show, and I regret it.
And regret of the show.
I don't know if you're joking right now.
You think nobody watches this? Yeah. Nobody really watched that. Sorry. Yeah. So shower scene, friends. There's a lot to unpack here. They're all naked.
So everyone's naked, and it's a sort of neutral shower room. So there's men, women, all showering in the same room.
For this weird Republican future.
Gender neutral bathroom.
It's basically a gender neutral shower.
For this
shower
weird
room.
Republican future that they've kind of created, though, like it's interesting to see. My wife's getting stuff from
none of them are trans. If they were trans, then there'd be a big issue.
No, but I mean, like even like unisex bathrooms are like a point of contention for the right wing people. So this is but also weirdest...
Paul Verhoeven was imagining his way of getting around certain things, and he's like, you know what might make them go crazy is if everyone's in here and you see boobs and penises and butts all at the same time. And you do. You don't see any penises, but if you look hard enough, you can see like a half a nut if you try.
Half penis.
But
this was the time of the chat like later on, right? I stamp on it.
So the actor who plays Diz in Her Infinite Wisdom, Dina Meyer, jokingly said to Paul Verhoeven, like, listen, we all have to get fucking naked, so I dare you, if you will, get naked as well. And so Paul Verhoeven was like, okay, closing the set. Whoever wants to stay can stay. Whoever wants to leave can leave. And then him and the director of photography both got naked and filmed this entire sequence also naked behind the camera. So, that's pretty cool.
That's
I guess.
good. That's
and
good.
Also very weird, but he's showing camaraderie with his cast, which is it says something about the man, but also just like how crazy he is.
It's just like how in RoboCop, when he was shooting the scene where RoboCop gets shot 75 times in the penis, he got shot 75 times in the penis just to show his camaraderie with his teammates.
He said, I'll do it for my art. I will let you shoot me in the penis.
Shoot me in the penis 75 times.
Yeah, he's a wild one, that Paul Verhoeven. But it's an interesting story that was a rumor for a long time. But in the director commentary for this, he does say like, "Oh, do you want to tell them or should I?" And he's like, because the writer is there. He's like, well, the writer's like, well, for all of you out there who are wondering if Paul Verhoeven did in fact get naked for the shooting of this scene, he did. He did. I was there. I saw it.
I saw his little German penis.
He's Dutch.
His little Dutch penis.
Yeah.
The thing that's great about this scene too is we kind of get some insight on who the people actually are. Like, they're not all just like meathead people. Jake Busey wants to be like a musician. I think the kitty guy Levin wants to be like a writer. He's a writer, reporter kind of guy. So he's asking Johnny
wants to
what
be like
he
a
wants
journalist,
to be. And Johnny's like, I'm not going to tell you. I just want to go and kill these aliens. And he's like, well, I got to ask questions if I want to be a writer. And then one guy.
But it also exposes that Johnny Rico does not know why he's there either. Like, that's kind of the point of that.
They're all smart people. Why they get like infantry? Do they want to do infantry or like?
I think that
the lowest like score, right? That's like the.
Yeah, I think it's highly competitive in terms of certain aspects of intelligence, but at the same time, I guarantee you that like there are a lot of people who are smart, but they're not like Neil Patrick Harris level smart.
Like literally psychic.
Yeah, and they're not like like literal psychics, and they're not as smart as maybe Denise Richards' character, but also Denise Richards' character probably like Rico and all the people that went to that high school and what is it called? Buenos Aires? I can't remember. Buenos Aires. Rich parents probably allowed them to have a little bit more leeway into getting to where they wanted to be or needed to be, I guess. Because Rico didn't have to go at all, and Rico's an idiot, and he deserves to be in the ground infantry because of his intelligence. But these other people, maybe they are poor. That's kind of what happens when you go to the military, at least from the people that I've spoken to in my real life. It's like, I know a few people who are extremely intelligent who went into the military, and then I would meet the people that they had befriended, and you're like, oh, not everybody is as smart as you.
Right.
This is interesting to me.
I have a question about future Earth, though. Why are there so many white people in Buenos Aires? It's Argentina.
It's
right?
part of
America.
The racism. It's part of the fascism of this world, Jason. It's. I think the idea that Paul Verhoeven had is like, this is what the world would look like if the Nazis took over the world. This is kind of what it would look like. Yeah.
And there's like that rumor that Hitler didn't die. He like went to Argentina, right? So it's kind of playing into that a little bit.
Maybe I didn't even consider that, but yeah, probably there was probably something.
It's not really a conspiracy theory because I think there's dregs of truth that a lot of Nazis fled to South America after
Well, they were doing
Third
experiments
Reich
there as well.
Fourth Reich.
But the experiments that you hear about are like wild, or it's like they were trying to breed humans with apes or something. You're like, what? But there's also that show on Prime where that sort of conspiracy theory is just like they just take it as truth, and so like Hitler is alive in Argentina in that show, and it's like so there's plenty of tales and Tarantino-esque alternate futures that we can kind of. We can
and somehow all of these outcomes allow Tarantino to say the N-word on camera.
Okay, you got to stop saying that every time we bring him up because there's a lot of other things that he's done that are maybe worse than that.
Okay, he sucked a bunch of feet off on camera.
Yeah.
Okay, he got his balls melted off in that one movie in Planet Terror.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
He did. That was I mean, any movie that he's not directing that he's in, he does something crazy and weird and fucked up.
Yeah. Then we get to see the living quarters. It's pure chaos. Johnny's trying to send a video to Carmen. We go over to Carmen now, and there's some more familiar faces. This is where Amy Smart shows up.
Did I say Elizabeth Smart? Is that her name? Or is it
Amy Smart?
is Elizabeth Smart the one that got kidnapped? Wasn't there like a person whose last name was Smart?
Elizabeth Smart is an American activist.
Elizabeth Smart is the one that got kidnapped. Yeah.
Yes, right. Yeah, you're right. Amy Smart is from one of the I think she's from Road Trip.
Yeah. No, I know. She's in those
Road
shitty
Trip.
movies with those Jolt movies or whatever they're called. Isn't she? Or am I thinking of a different actor?
Amy Smart is in Crank.
Jolt. Jolt.
And she's in Just Friends and The Butterfly Effect and Road Trip and Varsity Blues, and pretty much she was the blonde of the
And
early
this
2000s.
is the best movie she's ever been in.
Yeah. I feel like it was either her or Mina Suvari for American Pie also. We got Mina Suvari. Yeah. Also, she's in Zoolander. Where are my notes?
So we should talk to the fact that, they start to bond as a unit, and then a terrible accident occurs, and it's so gruesome, but so well done. Similar to the knife in the hand. We get our other training, like the laser tag and all that, and this is where Rico gets promoted to command because he's the one who essentially uses some sort of athletic strategy. It's not really a real strategy. It's like more like a football play, You distract them this way and I'll hop over top of them and shoot them in their backs or whatever. And you're like, nothing that he's doing really seems to make sense as like a strategy on a combat field outside of having really good reflexes.
That's true.
It's not like he comes up with a good strategy.
Even though
ability to do somersaults.
Sorry, what'd you say, Arjun?
Ability to do somersaults.
Yeah, exactly. And be able to shoot one-handed while holding a flag, like he's playing Halo.
He ends up.
Whose idea was it? Was it his idea or was it the other girl's idea?
I think it was Diz and him kind of collaborated, but
he's like,
man,
you couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah.
But, so I think she suggested it. So
I think she evokes like a play that they ran. Because she was on the football team with him, right? Like she evokes like a play from the football game, and he like smiles and is like, "All right," and then he gives the orders, right? So I think you're right, Arjun. I think she did come up with the plan technically, and he just ordered everyone to implement it
because they're pals. An interesting little detail here, which is, did you notice the things that they're shooting are like have the army man green? Of like the little army men from when we were kids.
Yeah, like toys.
I liked that little detail. It's fun.
So they then go to a live fire, like a live ammunition training thing, like where they're shooting the things like you were saying, Jason, the little things that are popping up, like the targets. And one of the guys, is it the guy who's got his arm broke?
The guy who gets his arm broken is the guy that gets shot in the head with the live.
Yeah, okay. So his helmet's because he's supposed to be the goofy idiot, right? Like a country blumpkin or whatever. Where he's just kind of like, okay, sorry, bumpkin. Did I say blumpkin? Whoops.
He's a country
Wrong
blumpkin.
word.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
There's some other stuff that happens in here too. We get it's revealed that Xander is with Carmen on her ship. Also Xander's her superior. And then right before this, also before the live ammunition part, actually even before the laser tag sequence, Carmen sends a video back to Johnny Rico to be like, I want to be a pilot. I want to be a career army, a career military. That doesn't really work out for us. I just want to include that in there because that sort of shows how they go their separate ways, and when they finally meet each other again, it's under horrible
She
circumstances.
breaks up with him via text.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So she broke up with him before the tragedy happened that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he's
so
already gotten in his.
So it's just like a spiral of shit. That's like,
Yeah.
Then the laser
He's already
tag
got
sequence.
the reason he's there is that she's.
Yeah.
Is he wants to be with her, and then when the accident happens, he's now like, I have no reason to be here anymore. Like, why the fuck would I stay? My girlfriend broke up with me, and I got somebody killed.
Hello, welcome,
which is
Rast,
understandable.
please.
And then we also get like the most sort of like horny and horrible whipping sequence
Well, the
you'll ever see.
So before we get to that, the reason why he gets to do the active round drill, the sergeants notice Johnny because he does the flip, and then when they do the live round,
it's because he wins. He's the one who
Yeah.
gets the flag. That's what the whole exercise was. It was like, who gets the flag is the one who gets to be the squad leader. Yeah.
So we go to J.K. Simmons, Dean Norris, not J.K. Simmons. Sorry, I've been watching Oz. Dean Norris from Breaking Bad is like the head honcho guy, and he's like, we're
also
not
from Total Recall. He's the guy with the weird folded face in Total Recall.
Oh yeah. So he doesn't get sent home. We're like, we'll give him administrative punishment.
You guys want to know something crazy about this though? In this movie, Dean Morris in this movie and Johnny Rico, they're only like 4 years apart in age, like in real life.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane. I'm watching Oz right now, and all those guys are like probably 30, and they all look like they're 45.
Yeah,
because people just looked older in the 90s and the 80s.
Yeah, this guy looks the same as Breaking Bad guy. Like he doesn't like.
Yeah. Well, it's because I think he just went bald younger, right? So he shaved his head when he was younger, and he just has that sort of like horse, which is like automatically ages you quite a bit, but it also extends your age. But you're now 40 for 40 more years.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about the administrative punishment is early in the movie, Johnny's dad is like, I'd rather get 10 lashings in town square than go off to war. And guess what happens to Johnny? He gets 10 lashings in the military town square, so to speak.
Also, really good effect, man. I think the whipping in this movie looks really, like, I don't know how they did it, but I'm sure it's probably not as crazy or difficult as my brain is making it seem like it should. Because is it like, are they hitting him with something that has like paint on it? Or are they doing something where the gore marks were there and they're digitally removing it and adding it afterwards?
Or
I don't know, but it looks good.
They whip him with something that causes like a paint line and then add a digital skin separation or something.
I don't know, but I'll tell you, it looks fucking good.
We can ask
Casper Van Dien took one for the team.
Back right now, sitting in keloids.
He pulled a Daniel Day-Lewis. He's like, no, I'm gonna do it for real. I'm a real actor.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
You're not a great actor, but you let people whip you for real in movies.
Yeah, and then he gives him a little bite thing or whatever to bite down on. It'll help, son.
It'll help, son. He's like, I've been through it or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
I know. He's like, trust me, I know. Or he like basically implies that he's been whipped before as well.
Why is your Clancy Brown like one of your best impressions?
Because I kind of sound like him already.
I noticed that I watch a podcast with Will Sasso, and he does a really good Hulk Hogan. And what I learned is he just kind of sounds like Hulk Hogan when he talks anyway. So he just has to go like this, dude. Yeah, so it's true. You kind of sound like Tom Hanks then.
Right. I remember I did a recording for the games years ago, and they deepened my voice quite a bit. And I was like, what the fuck? And then everyone was like, yeah, you sound like, and I was like, Clancy Brown? Yeah. I was like, oh my God. I do kind of sound like Clancy Brown. This is sick.
So we go back to Carmen and Xander. They're bonding over being on third watch together. So this is probably what you were talking about. They almost kiss here. And I think this is the only time they show any real affection towards each other. So they probably do kiss here in a cut version or a cutting room floor scene, and then probably have sex on third watch because they're the only two people at the front of the ship, I would imagine.
This after she breaks up with him?
This is after she breaks up with
Yeah.
Johnny too.
Because
Yeah.
we don't get to see sort of her we get a little chunk of her life, but we don't get to see her, living her life until after that, because I don't think they wanted to have us already feel shitty about her existence beforehand, right?
Mm-hmm. So this is also the scene we were going to talk about earlier. So I'm going to play a little sting because there's going to be some theories.
Uh-oh. Are you ready, kids?
So during this sequence, they find themselves in a gravity field, which means that an asteroid has come close enough to the ship that it's affecting the trajectory of their ship. And essentially what happens here is this is also kind of foreshadowed earlier when Carmen's pulling out of the base, the space station, and she almost like smashes the ship into the side of the space station, but she narrowly avoids it by about, I think it's like 3 meters. But in this,
she's the only one who's not worried because she knows that she's good enough to get out, right? Like that's the thing, is like she's so confident in her abilities. We also see her flying like a devil through the interior of the ship, and everybody on board with her is like pissing themselves, and she's just like, "This is the best fun I've ever had."
Yeah, she doesn't have a fear response. But during this sequence, they get an emergency comm that's like, there's an asteroid coming your way. It's on a trajectory directly for your ship. So she uses an evasive maneuver that like she puts the nose of the ship down and then thrusts down kind of underneath it. But the top of the ship gets blown off by the asteroid because it nicks it. And there's a widely regarded fan theory that the whole movie is predicated
is this
on
Arjun's theory that you're stealing
moment.
now? Come on.
No,
Arjun
not
wrote this
it.
theory.
Oh, you wrote
I'm just
it?
kidding.
So the idea, though, is that her evasive maneuver is the reason why Buenos Aires gets destroyed, causing the whole rest of the movie to go the way that it does, causing them to invade Catharon, or whatever the planet's called.
Cthulhu, Planet Cthulhu.
And then after it gets busted off, Klendathu. After it gets busted off, they can't communicate with anybody because it's like the communication tower that gets broken off. So they're unable to like warn people about the asteroid going towards Earth. So Arjun, do you have anything to add to that? And Steve, do you know anything about this theory?
I mean, I think it's entirely plausible. I mean, if you if you nick the asteroid, it's probably, even if it's a couple degrees, it could change the entire trajectory when you're talking about like hundreds of thousands of miles, So I think it's entirely plausible. And I think it's entirely plausible. Like, what if Denise Richards was like, I don't know, like a child soldier who, like, kind of like what's a movie called, The Red Scarlet or whatever, with Jennifer Lawrence, that she was just like trained to like infiltrate the area and cause this war in order for the Federation to gain more authority. Who knows? Maybe that's why she's overconfident and arrogant. It's a lot of theories.
This is one of those theories that I kind of like, right? Because it's already established in the lore.
It's Sparrow.
It's already established in the lore that the aliens they're not necessarily peaceful, but they're not aggravated and they're not attacking. They're just protecting themselves.
But they think like the perception of the citizens is that they're constantly under attack from these arachnids, which is like all propaganda, all fascism. You know what I mean? So that's why I like this theory as well. Sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, that was basically what I was going to say, you piece of shit. You stole my thing I was going to say. Sorry. No, I was going to say I like it because it's one of the theories that, even if it's complete bullshit and they didn't think about that whatsoever, it makes it more interesting because, they're telling the human beings, oh, the bug sent this asteroid, even though it was the human beings that accidentally bumped it trying to get out of the way. But doesn't she also alter the path? Like during the night shift, she's like, I altered the path because it's slightly more.
Hey, yeah.
It's faster. Like, so what Arjun said, yeah. She's like, it'll get us there quicker and it'll be more efficient. But then it also puts them into the path of this asteroid that they then bump.
It's like a bigger theory that way. like sheet.
Yeah, that it could fly towards Earth. And it not only does it go to Earth and hit Earth, but it hits exactly where Johnny Rico grew up. His parents' house. It landed on his parents' house, basically.
That's why it's a great theory.
It's also just like very cinematic, and it's just a very sort of like, yes, it's convenient for the story, but it also makes it more compelling, right? I'm like, this is great. This is movies. This is fun storytelling.
It's actually really funny that this was brought up in the fact that Arch, you knew about this, because I actually saw this coincidentally like 2 days ago at TikTok. Some movie TikToker was like, they were just talking about it on their podcast or whatever. But the way that they frame it is that Denise Richards, like Carmen, has like a baby brain, like she's an idiot. Then I watched the movie a couple days later, and she's definitely not an idiot. Like, that was a very strategic thing to do, which almost makes it worse, because she was just trying to save time. She's trying to do something strategic. And
well, she was trying to get herself ahead in the eyes of the captain, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm doing this in order to be like, hey, look at me, I'm really good at my job. So she's doing the above and beyond thing, where she thinks the captain's going to come down and see that she changed course in order to make it more efficient. But it's also possible that the course was set because they knew that there was a fucking asteroid that they made.
But this other podcast presented it like it was like an oopsie teehee thing, and she was an idiot. But no, she did a very strategic, like.
But it can also come down to what you were saying earlier about her saying like home run or whatever, right? Yeah. Where it's like she's very smart, but then she's also not. She's not always thinking about the grand scheme of things. She's thinking about
a deception. She probably just said a home run to give the impression that she's a moron.
That she's an idiot.
Incredibly intelligent and manipulative.
But she also is very manipulative and intelligent. We know this from her math scores and just the fact that she's able to play two super hot dudes at the same time.
And she was like
in the same room as each other.
The pilot seat too, right? Like, I know she wanted to show off, but like, why wasn't she also in like such a rush to get there?
It's true.
I really
Denise Richards is the villain of this movie.
That's kind of the theory, right? And I really like the home run line. That's gonna stick. That's out of everything in this movie. The CGI being good and her saying home run for a touchdown is gonna be with me for years to come. Johnny leaves for the Mobile Infantry. Diz tells him not to, and at that point we get a call from Earth. He's leaving.
Yeah, he puts in his resignation. I do want to also give a shout out to the live round training and how good that headshot looks
when he's
like
laying on the ground and his brain is splattered across the floor.
Even just like when he gets shot in the head, it's like this. It's unexpected because there's so much happening, and you figure something's going to happen. The tension is rising, something bad's going to happen. And even having seen this movie a ton of times, I always forget how good the dummy work in this movie is, and like the practical effects are, because it's just like she falls and the gun just automatically goes off, and his head just kind of like opens up in this extremely sort of. It's just like you can feel the impact of it, and you even kind of are like, oh.
I remember watching the scene for the first time, actually. Like, I think this scene like stuck out the most. Like the first time I watched it when I was like 10 years old. It was like shocking.
Probably the most disturbing, yeah. Like because there's every other sequence where something really gory happens, there's a little bit of tension that builds up physically, and it's going to happen because you know exactly what's going to happen because they're almost telegraphing it to you. Whereas something bad's going to happen, but you don't know what it is, and it happens so quickly that even if you blink, you miss the squib go off in this like dummy head, and it's great. There's many other moments in this movie that I want to talk about, like this one, but this is probably the moment, the first moment that you're like, holy shit, this movie is this is a gruesome movie.
Are you qualified to be a helmet engineer? What does he say? Like,
yeah, were you? Yeah, it's something like that. It's
because he's
are you an expert? Yeah,
because he's.
Sir, I was looking to take care. What was it like? Take care of his helmet, sir.
Yeah, there was something wrong with his helmet. It's like, did you instruct him to take off his helmet, Rico? I did. And are you qualified to make repairs on a helmet of that? Or some bullshit like that.
It was a helmet malfunction, and he's like, instructed him to take it off. It's like, are you qualified to take to repair a helmet? I don't know.
Yeah, it's something along those lines, and it's just like it's a dressing down, but they're not kicking him out.
Rask plays in the chat. Absolutely nailed it. I wanted to win, sir.
Yeah, I wanted to win, sir.
I mean, I don't know. Would you try to fix your buddy's helmet? Like, if that
Maybe not in a live fire exercise like that. Yeah, I don't
I'd
know.
be a psychic.
Yeah. If it was the actual field, maybe, but I wouldn't be like, take your helmet off while everybody's shooting bullets around you.
Real bullets. They make it very clear at the beginning of that sequence that's like, we're using live rounds, and this guy who's only proven himself in laser tag is now your squad leader. So don't kill each other, and 1 minute later, somebody dies from bullets to the head.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of if they kind of cut to him going through like helmet manufacturing like lessons, like
Right
like,
after that, he's
yeah.
studying a helmet. Like, how does this
It's
work?
like some like nerd that comes in like, all right, today we're going to discuss how to
That's his punishment. Instead of getting whipped a bunch of times, he has to learn how helmets work.
helmets work, how to repair them in the field.
All right, Rico, are you listening? Are you listening, Rico? Helmet on head, good. Helmet off of head, bad.
I don't get it, Sarge. I'm not
like
your. Once again, I'm not your sergeant.
They have two
He
dummy
like repairing
heads.
helmets as a punishment, like
Two dummy heads. One has no helmet. One has a helmet. And he's like, "Okay, Rico, now watch this." And he shoots the one with the helmet. Then he shoots the one without the helmet. It's like a watermelon exploding. See, Rico? Yes, sir.
So
Okay, you can stop yelling.
you're in a factory. So Diz tells him not to leave as he's trying to exit, and he gets a call from Mom. And Mom's, I miss you, blah, blah, blah. And Dad gets on the phone, and Dad is actually, like, very supportive of the situation. He's like, you can come on home. And then at the end of the call, it goes dark, and he goes,
Yeah.
it's not supposed to rain. And
what's happening? Everything goes completely like pitch black.
it's so fucking funny to me. Rask plays.
the asteroid, right? The asteroid has the explosion. Like I guess
It was just the asteroid.
I think it's like
just
blocking out the sun,
flattening
yeah,
the
because it's super big or
the
something.
area. Rask plays in the chat says it's also kind of ridiculous that they seem to imply that the helmet would have prevented the head explosion, which I fully agree with, because he would have he's got shot
100%.
here where the helmet was not protecting.
I know,
his brain
but
got blown out. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they didn't all stop and sit in that one position to fuck with his helmet, to get his helmet off, to there's other circumstances, not just the helmet itself. But he wanted to win, sir. That's
right.
the thing. I wanted to win, sir.
So then we get the suddenly something is. I wrote suddenly something is happening. They're going to war. Devastation in Buenos Aires. Clendathu sent the
Would you like to
asteroid.
hear more?
It destroyed Buenos Aires, wiped off the earth. Johnny's home. This is the Home Alone of it all, in my opinion. This is the Home Alone. Oh, wrong mouse. This is the Home Alone of it all, so I'm just gonna.
If you had to pick one,
what do you think the Home Alone of it
is
all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone of
I
it
really
all
gotta
happens?
know.
When is the Home Alone of
What
it all?
is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
I'll revisit this without the theme, but my Home Alone of it all, the Home Alone of it all, Arjun, is the idea that in the movie Home Alone, the movie started for me when Kevin McAllister slapped down the blueprints and you see all the cool traps drawn all over it. And then Marvin and Harry come in and they start getting Saw-styled murdered in cartoon fashion.
I've never heard anyone refer to him as Marvin before.
Marv and Harry.
Oh, I thought you said Marvin. I mean, his name probably is Marvin.
It probably is Marvin.
I've never heard anyone say it.
But in a lot of movies, we've kind of boiled it down to like the third act. Steve likes to bring up the fact that it's usually the stuff they show in the trailer, kind of like what you're attracted to about the movie. In this movie, I think it's when it comes back around to because this is where we get the next sequence is us seeing that opening sequence, but from the point of view of the soldiers. So my Home Alone of it all for this movie is this point on. Once we get a little bit further, closer to the end of the movie, I'll probably ask both of you what your Home Alone of it all is for it. But I just wanted to, I made a note of it here, so I just wanted to let you guys know that that's what it was for me. The death toll is over 8 million and rising.
That's a lot.
So moment of silence for 8 million Buenos Aryans.
Nazis.
Aryan?
They are.
Holy shit!
I mean, they are Aryans. Like, for 100%, they are.
Right.
A lot of Nazis go to Argentina after World War II. Like, is there like a theme in that, or?
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Yeah,
there's a conspiracy theory that Hitler didn't kill himself in that bunker. He fled to Argentina and started a new Nazi party. And I think that there's a thing that like fascism is very much alive and well in Argentina. And if not, it's alive and well in South America. I don't know. If anybody's a world historian,
I mean, recently they had like a far right guy that got elected president, right, of Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like last week or something. Yeah.
It's Neil Patrick Harris's character from this movie.
With his baby face.
Carl. His name's Carl. Yeah, I think that this is when the movie starts to like kick it into gear, you know, where we know what we're in for now when they have to go to Clondatu.
Recording stopped.
Oh, my disk space is insufficient.
Uh-oh.
It's fine. This will live in infamy on YouTube forever. It's all good.
Okay. But you know, it's Rico's like about to leave because you don't see what's going on, right? Like he sees the thing get cut out, the communication with his parents gets cut out, the call, and so he is on his way out. He's doing the kind of walk of shame with his stuff, and he's seeing everybody around him training, and then everybody starts to run in a certain direction, and he's like, "What the heck's going on?" And someone's like, "They're gonna attack! We're going to war!"
It was like a good scene. It was like one person was running, then the second person, then 4, 10, then 20, then 30, and then
yeah, they did a good job of it, sort of that like slow burn there. We were kind of like, "Oh God, what's happening, Rico?"
Just as a side note, I looked up the new president of Argentina, and who got elected literally on the 10th, and he announced drastic economic measures that angered some social and labor groups, which really that's some fascist shit, because he's trying to crack down on protests because South America is on fire. And he has a book called El Camino de Libertario, and started a party called the Freedom Advances, which all of that sounds very very fascisty. So yeah, just to what Arjun was saying, this dude looks like a villain. Also, he kind of looks like Joaquin Phoenix or Jason Bateman could play him in a biopic,
or like the world's craziest Beatles fan.
Yeah, or the world's craziest Beatles fan. Yeah, he's got a Beatles haircut and has like, if Jason Bateman was a Sith Lord.
All right.
Steve, just based on this, I want you just to draw. Like, I don't want
I won't look it up.
And
I'll call him Jason Beetleman.
That's amazing.
Jason Beetleman, president of Argentino.
Yeah.
Okay,
Johnny wants to rejoin the force to fight the bugs. They don't let him at first, but then Dean Norris and Clancy Brown rip up his contract to quit and say, "I didn't see nothing, kid," basically. Yeah. And when they're showing shots of...
You made a spelling error, son.
Yeah. They show a dead dog that's like crushed, and I don't think I've ever seen that in a movie before. I thought that was shocking.
It's funny because during the commentary of the movie, Paul Verhoeven is kind of silent during this part, and then you can hear the writer, and he's like, "You know, it's funny because they say there are a few things that you should never show in a movie because it's too upsetting for people to see, and that is, you know, mass death of a child, and death of a dog." And you know, you kind of skipped over the first two and went right for the dog.
We also saw
like the only good bug is a dead bug.
We saw mass death in the.
No, I know, but the joke is that he showed a dead dog when he really did not need to show a dead dog. Like, right. He showed it just for it to upset people.
Which lends credence.
It's like, I'm going to show the dog only. I wanted to show a baby and an old lady as well, but I went for the dog only.
So the Federation is going to attack. Neil Patrick Harris talks about aiming for the nerve system to kill. This is the scene where they've got the bug in the cage.
Yeah.
Or referencing the bug in the cage, where it's like, you got to kill the nerve system. If you just take out a limb, there's like an 86% chance that it can still
kill you,
attack you, because every part of these arachnids is a horrible death device. Pokey.
Yeah.
Nightmares.
Everything is sharp and gnarled. It's like it's made out of shark teeth and whale bones. You're like, this thing is it's just a pile of knives that are moving towards you.
And this is a would you like to know more scene 2, I believe, because this is where we get the shot of the kids just like squashing the like comically fake.
Yeah.
Well, this is little animatronic cockroaches, but they're just fucking cockroaches.
Yeah, that's what I was
Maybe real cockroaches.
Well, I was listening to the commentary and they said that they weren't real, but they're moving around and they look real. And I'm like, is he just saying this because he's like, I don't think any of them actually died. I think that only the rubber ones full of mashed up bananas got fucked up.
Just admit it. Like the cockroaches are like they're not endangered by any means.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
But you're still not allowed to kill
they've
stuff
lasted
on camera.
longer than human beings have. Just like that's fine. No one's gonna be offended by that. Like I don't think there's gonna be people protesting on the street.
There are PETA people who
PETA
would still
have a
protest
problem
about
with
it. Yeah. But
in the original Friday the 13th, which we covered on the show, and then the episode was lost, and then we made a 10-minute like redux of it. The only thing we talked about was the fact they killed a real snake, and they do kill a real snake. And I think a lot of people will be like, well, fuck that snake. But
I actually learned a new thing about that snake that I didn't know until recently that we didn't talk about on the show. That snake was a pet snake of a snake handler that brought it.
Worse.
And they were supposed to swap the snake out and cut up a rubber snake. And no one told the actor, so he just cut the head off the real snake. And it was just this guy's pet snake. And he was like, what the fuck? You killed my snake, man. This is my boy.
That's actually awful.
It's so horrifying. Bad. Imagine you brought your dog. Imagine the second movie when they have that dog and they actually killed the dog. It's the same thing. Anyway, I don't know if those cockroaches were real, and the information that I have is that they weren't, but I don't know. All I know is that scene is pretty funny because the kids are stomping gleefully on these bugs, and then it cuts to a woman and she is psychopathically laughing and clapping about it. Like she's like so excited. And I mean, it's funny, but then when you think about the implication of what propaganda is, it's so disturbing, right? Like they are propagating this image to human beings to make them upset and scared and want to kill bugs, and not just the bugs that are attacking them, but any bug, right? And when you think about World War II and what everything is about when it comes to those types of war and propaganda, it's like, no, they can basically cast this swash of like, look at these people, they look like this, and this, and anyone who looks even remotely like this is our enemy, and we should treat them like they're disgusting creatures that are not worth living. And that's how they get people to be okay with killing things, right? You can get them to kill these bugs because then they'll be more apt to go kill these other larger bugs, even though they're completely different and have nothing to do with each other. It's scary, man. And he did it in a way that, like, you know, it is funny, but at the same time, it's not funny when you think about it for more than the surface level comedic stuff that you're seeing, right?
That's right.
I wish he would come back and make another style movie, but I think he's sick and tired of the Hollywood fascist system. I don't like it.
So
I like to see you do like a kind of like how the different fields, like, so they focus on the infantry for this one, like maybe like another one focusing on the military intelligence, or like I want to see like that.
I think that would be interesting, but at the same time, I think that the fact that you don't see it is kind of more powerful to me, because the hauntedness of Neil Patrick Harris's character because he's the sort of the class clown, the goofy, fun guy.
He's like a dickhead at the beginning, you know.
And then you don't see him,
like a bully.
And then you don't see him forever, and then he comes back and he's just this like hardened. He's almost got like a soullessness to him, and you know it's because he's having to make all these crazy decisions that he probably knows for a fact that like the bugs are intelligent, they have emotions, they have feelings. we're killing them because we have to, because
Yeah.
it's like the machine that we're a part of.
At the end, it's
And so he's
heavily
probably-
implied that he can see all, based on
Well,
one
he
line.
knows what they're feeling, right? And it's
Yeah.
like he probably also can read their mind far more deeply than just being afraid. He's probably like, oh my God, these things are scared of us for a good reason. We're the bad guys here.
Are we the baddies? We've got skulls on our hats.
What's the name of that show that does that?
That's Mitchell and Webb look.
Have you seen the one with the alcoholism and when they go into like the convenience store?
I think so. I've seen. I watched a lot of Mighty Boosh, and I watched a lot of Peep Show. Mighty Boosh isn't those guys, but it's like same British style, like the same style of comedy with those guys. They kind of came and went. The Mitchell and Webb look is one that I want to go and watch all of, because it's just sketches with the guys from Peep Show. And yeah, also the guy who created Peep Show created Succession, which blows my fucking mind.
Yeah. No, that actually was crazy. But that one sketch is like that got me into Mitchell Webb was like when this guy, he goes into like a convenience store, and there's like the convenience store guy there, and he like initially goes and he just fills his cart up with like just like random things like bread, like a little bit of, like a newspaper, a pack of gum, whatever. And then as he's going to the till, he like looks and he sees like a fridge like full of beer, and he like is like, oh, I might as well just like grab one of these guys. And he like opens it and he's like, oh, the one I just grabbed is like a 12% beer. Oh, I guess it's the first one I grabbed. Like, I'll put that in there. And then like he takes it to the front of the car, and then they're cashing him out. And as they're cashing him out, it turns out that he doesn't have enough money to pay for the groceries and that 12% like strong beer that he has. So he's like, oh, well, like, you know what I'll do? I'll just buy 2 of these cans and just put the groceries aside. And then he's like, the register of the till is like, okay. He's like, all right, well, see you later. He's like, well, see you tomorrow again. Line of this guy like comes every day, just puts up this charade, and he's just like alcoholic.
I think I know. Yeah, I think I have seen that actually. That sounds super familiar. That's really funny though.
Sorry to get back, but
no, that's great. That's great. I love it. They're gonna get
Bug war.
They're gonna get ready to invade. We get an interview with Ace and Diz about the situation, and Johnny. Johnny's ready to go. He's gonna do his part. As Rask plays in the chat said, I'm gonna do my part. I'm from Buenos Aires, and I say kill them all. That's what he says at that point, which I thought was super funny. Because people are like having like
then he puts on a hat that's way too small for his head. I don't know if you noticed this. I think Casper Van Dien probably just has a giant head.
He does, a giant square skull.
Yeah.
Carmen is now with them there, because I think this is where we're about to get to the point where they meet up with the new crew. At any rate, she's his superior. Xander approaches. They almost get into a fight. He's like,
they do get into a fight.
Well, yeah. Oh, I wrote that before I saw them get into a fight.
Okay.
Xander approaches. He says, rank is not an issue here. And Johnny fucking sucker punches him.
Yeah, and clocks him.
And then they get into a pull apart situation after that. And then it just cuts to fucking them getting lasered on tattoos of all.
Yeah, tattoos of that say death from above or something on them, I think.
Ace pours liquor on it. Like, you think
like
that hurts?
I think it's a Glen Morgan.
Sponsor of this week's episode, Glen Morgan. Yeah. Also, the liquor they pour on the tattoo.
Exactly.
Can you come on every week and just be the spokesperson for this liquor that we don't actually have any right to?
I'll keep doing it. I obviously would love to do that. Yeah.
It'll be like the Oprah, like Dr. Oz segments, but it'll be the Dr. Arch segments, and he just talks about
all the health benefits of whiskey. I'll look under your seats, also, everybody in the chat. I really like the fact that he just like, you think that hurts, and pours liquor on it. That's so fucking funny to me.
I wonder if a laser tattoo is, if getting a tattoo via laser is something that could ever actually be a thing, like a real thing. Like, will AI steal tattoo artist jobs? Is what I'm asking.
How's the ink going?
Fully customized over a human artist.
I could see like scarification tattoos being created by lasers, but like How are those lasers putting ink into the skin, into
I don't know. They got to create some sort of light based
layer or
ink. I
whatever?
don't know. Maybe you just have to like put like a patch on that has the design, and then the laser like burns it in the ink from the patch.
If
into
only
it
we
or
had an
something.
actual
Or you
doctor
just
here.
brand somebody like a
It's true. Just brand people.
Well, that's what I mean by scarification. Like you could laser a design onto somebody's arm, but it would just be like burnt.
A
It would just
burnt
be a
flesh.
scar, right?
Yeah. Gross.
Maybe nanotechnology will get us there. But this next scene, I really enjoy. They suit up, but it's like soldiers going onto spaceships. And I actually wanted to ask you, Steve, do you know anything about how they filmed these like wide shots of like soldiers going onto spaceships? Was it a situation where it's like repeated, or did they have like these giant groups of extras being shot?
They would have had it would have been a mixture of things. So they would have had probably a pretty wide shot of a bunch of different drop ships being filled with people, and then they would have had stuff duplicated, most likely beyond it. That's the same way when you see the ocean of bugs and stuff happening. It's like they're doing shit that, because this is one of the first movies that this is the first movie that he ever had to use CGI for, like proper CGI. But even up until this point, it was not being done on this scale, and it, again, like we were saying before, it is really, really good. But like the oceans of bugs and stuff, right? Like the further back it gets, the less detail you're getting in these things, and like they call them hero shots, which are like the far more detailed versions of things that are up close, right? They would do things like that for this sort of shot that you're talking about, where it's just a wide shot of a bunch of people getting onto things. The further back you get, the easier it is to muddy those details, right? So
that's why I asked, because like during this, like it looked really good. They were clearly using like the bigatures for the hanger shot. But I was looking really close because I was watching a 1080p, like pretty high res version of the cut, and it looked like it was repeated. Like you could almost see those like green screen lines a little bit, but not on the people in the foreground. But like if you had to really look into the background to see it. But if you just watch it with an untrained eye, it looks so good. It was a really cool, like the soldiers are getting ready to go fight a war sequence.
This is probably the biggest budget for a movie that should have never had the budget that it got.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable the amount of money they gave to him, considering he basically just made a fuck you to fascism movie that was like essentially saying, "Oh, hey, America, did you know that you are fascism? You are
this
just
movie
fascist.
is about you if you took over the whole world."
Don't you know?
That's funny. I have to step away for 2 seconds.
Okay.
The next scene is the two ships crash in the air because the big bug is shooting the lasers up from the
butt
planet.
lasers.
The butt lasers.
The coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I'll be back in 2 seconds.
I remember seeing this as a kid and thinking like, that's kind of dumb. But like the more and more that I've watched this movie over the years, I think it's like the coolest shit ever, because it is sort of, like insects in real life, right? They have all these strange, weird abilities that are based upon their ability to adapt to weird stuff around them, right? And you think just about how evolution works in general, and how I know there's like plants that have figured out ways to emulate a snake head so that other like squirrels and shit won't come eat this plant. So it's like it has the patterns of a snake's face, and it hangs out of a tree, and you're like, well, this is just crazy ways of evolution finding a way to do stuff. And you're like, I don't know how it works. I don't really delve into it that much, but I do think that a giant bug who is on a planet that is constantly being bombarded by asteroids maybe would find a way to be able to shoot a big butt laser into space to shoot asteroids down,
That is one of the most beautiful ways of describing a butt laser.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what's interesting about it, I find, is that it looks like, I don't know if, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we know what the intention of those butt lasers were. Like when I saw them first, I'm like, oh, this is like a beautiful, like I don't know if it's like a fireworks show or
Right.
like a homing device thing for like everybody else. And then you realize like even though it looks all pretty, it's like all like glittery and stuff and like goes in the air. It's
Yeah.
actually intended to like cause massive damage to like I don't know, like a fleet of starships, right?
That are coming, yeah.
Yeah.
And so like that's where the more I would watch it, the more I'm like, so how do these bugs like get these abilities, and like what would they have been using them before they were even introduced to the
Yeah,
human
yeah.
race, right? So that's where I started to think maybe it was like they would be developing it probably for like burrowing into the ground or something. They'd be able to like make holes to burrow deeper to lay eggs or something. And now they've figured out ways to shoot them high into the sky to shoot down predators, or like I said, asteroids coming down.
Yeah,
They
there's,
shoot
there's
them
definitely
at the
some
asteroid.
obviously some evolutionary reason for that, but I feel like that if they're shooting them to the ground, they just blow up themselves because I feel like once it hits like any kind of like some sort of matter, it'll just like causes like a giant explosion on impact.
But I don't know if it makes an explosion or if it just like, is it some sort of like bioluminescent acid that burns through things? Because the explosions might just be that the ships are exploding because they have lots of explosive-y stuff inside of it.
Right.
I have a
You know?
question.
Yeah.
Did you notice how when the ships explode, they start falling? Did you guys talk about this?
No, we didn't, but that's a interesting
Ships
thing.
don't. The only thing that I could think of is that they're in the gravitational pull of something that's causing them to fall. But if a ship gets hit in space, it would just, at most, be sent in the direction that the thing hit it. Right? That's a cartoon cinematic thing. I guess
It's a thing that makes it look more interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to look at it. But I mean, I'm talking about butt lasers over here. So
You're talking about butt lasers.
I'm not trying to get too realistic about it, but I am talking about why would they have evolved a butt laser in the first place?
Oh, okay.
So,
Or I don't know if it like exploded and hit the ship like on the top, then I guess physics would say it would go down.
yeah, because they are kind of like weirdly arcing, right? When they're in space, they start to arc a little bit. I don't know. I don't really know how it works. I haven't really looked into the science behind it, but it looks fucking cool.
The CGI is great during this sequence. All of it looks the
Yeah.
bigatures, the miniatures, even the blue light that's coming up. All of this reminds me of Halo, and I wouldn't be surprised if Halo, if Bungie was heavily inspired, and StarCraft. StarCraft predates this, but Halo's after this. I wouldn't be surprised if those three things sort of go in a line of inspiration.
Oh, the armor that the Marines in Halo wear is so similar
like
to
the
this. And
ODST.
the creators of Halo have 100% said many times, like, the Space Marines of Halo are essentially taken from this and the movie Aliens.
Yeah.
They're like, Aliens
true.
and Starship Troopers are like the two
That's
big
Halo.
ones. Yeah.
But the Zerg from StarCraft look a lot like the arachnids in this, which is cool. We did we're on Twitch, so we have to do a government mandated talk about a video game. I made that up. I invented that. So they watch as their crew gets torn to shreds. So when they hit the
Which
planet,
government is the one that makes us do it each week? The Norwegian government?
Whichever government of the universe that we're talking about.
The government of Blendathu.
Yeah. For this week, that's what it is. Yeah. They comically get destroyed. They land at night. There's some sort of thing that I noticed here where like,
is it the news reporter who's like, it's an ugly planet. It's a disgusting planet.
Yeah.
Did you recognize that guy or no? He was all over Showgirls last week, baby.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's Phil, right?
He's the fucking guy at the boat show.
Yeah, the guy's like, why don't you come over and we'll sing? Yeah, he's the Agent Phil. Not Phil Coulson, just Phil.
But I mean, that's a Verhoeven thing as well, is that he has his barnyard of actors that he likes to be like, this is a good movie for you, I think, maybe.
He's kind of a John Carpenter in that respect, then.
Yeah, a little bit.
Stay tuned
he's
for
not
next month when we do John Carpenter movies all month.
He's not as much of like as like a Kevin Smith or a Tarantino.
Where it's literally the same cast every time.
Yeah, but he pulls people in when he thinks that they would be good for a role. And, he had in Total Recall, he had Michael Ironside as like the sort of the hunter character, right, throughout that movie. And he brought him back for this. And I think I told the story at the beginning of the podcast already, but Michael Ironside called him. He's like, this book is a bunch of right-wing propaganda bullshit. Why the hell would you ever make this, Paul? And Paul's like, I'm going to sneak a lot of anti-fascism into this. I'm going to make it basically crazy and, fill it with Barbie dolls and make it look stupid.
So yeah, when they land, it's almost like they outnumber the bugs, but the amount of bugs they have to deal with and how caught off guard, it's like the bugs almost outnumber them, which is crazy because later when you see how many bugs it's possible to actually show up, like they're fighting like 20 of them right now. It's like 100 dudes versus 20 bugs, but these things are pack hunters. And they just get torn to shreds.
Like a spider, right? Like these arachnids. Like on average, they had like something stupid, like 80 kids or something. Like
yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know if I've ever told the story. I'm no longer afraid of spiders. I was afraid of them quite a lot as a kid. But one time when I was about 12 or 13, I was sitting in my computer room and a tiny little spider came down right in front of my face while I was on the computer. And I was like, what the fuck? And it was on a web. And then another one came down and another one came down. And I was like, what the fuck? And I looked up and there's a light fixture and there was just like 50 little spiders coming down and they all started landing on me.
I would burn down the house.
Yeah, nuke it from space.
So I'm covered in tiny little spiders all over me. And I just ran into the shower with my full clothes on and was like,
Yeah.
And I haven't really been scared of spiders ever since then. But they're definitely not pleasant. I don't like them, but
I kind of like spiders. See how my name is Spider Hero? It came from every time I see a spider inside, I take it outside. Also, I love Spider-Man. But I don't know where that comes from. The same way that you fear spiders, I've never been afraid of spiders. Even though one time I was climbing on this like pile of brush, a bunch of like fallen trees and I like was just kind of jumping up. I was like probably 8 and I was jumping up and down and I kind of fell on my butt. And when I stood up, I had fallen onto a spider nest. And similarly to you, Steve, the baby spiders just went everywhere. And that's my origin story, and that's how I have spider powers. That's stupid.
Spider-Man, spider guy.
I also this is the point.
Exposure therapy works. Exposure therapy works.
I believe that, and it's true. Except for going on airplanes, no matter how much I do it, it makes me more scared of planes because laws of probability. That's stupid too.
So based on exposure therapy, you need to crash and die.
Yeah.
Plane crash in order to alleviate your fear of it.
Yeah. You need to crash in the middle of the ocean and have to actually do an evacuation in order to not be afraid of it. Then I'll be prepared. A few times, yeah.
Just once or twice, yeah. You just have to cast away yourself at least 2 times.
I've been cast away like 3 times, man. This castaway guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. Yeah. This is the point that I wrote down. Really, these soldiers, the Federation, are just invading and attacking animals that don't understand what's happening. The humans are dicks. I wrote that as a joke. I wanted to say I knew that that's what this movie's about. I just wanted to bring that up because the fact I forgot about the part at the end where it turns out that they kind of had like a hive mind kind of mentality with like a mother brain kind of thing. Like this, it's kind of messed up that the
way this world works, I'm wondering if there's some sort of there's something else going on here where like the reason that human beings have the telepathy is because of like exposure to the
they're linked
and like there's some kind of weird thing going on.
They discovered this place and then it caused them to get like a 6th or 7th sense.
What? Yeah, they found a fucking magical artifact. Who knows? It could be anything. Yeah. They found some ooze and it got into the food source, and now it's like microplastics for millennials, except it gives us magic powers.
It's almost like genetically, like because in order for things to get like inherited, and this movie was like filmed like in the 23rd century or something.
Yeah,
Like
what year
200
is it in this movie? I forget. It's like in the pretty distant
no.
future.
I think it's 23rd century.
The year was 1997. No, it's the 23rd century. Yeah,
23rd century. Okay, I mean,
a couple
So it's
hundred years from now.
2400.
maybe if you guys are saying like something in like the water or something that they exposed to, it has to alter genes because genes are inheritable,
Okay.
and those are
Right.
after that might alter them to be more prone to telepathy. I don't know.
They luckily don't give us enough information to do anything else.
Yeah.
Do anything.
All we
other
can do
than
is speculate.
theorycraft. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna cancel my clinic for the next week and just speak about this specifically.
Instead of helping people,
When
you're
I
gonna
get in
help
trouble,
yourself.
Yeah.
When my inbox gets full of like where you're neglecting your patients, I'm just gonna tell them that I'm trying to figure out how these guys get telepathy in Starship Troopers.
Yeah, I watched Starship Troopers and talked
You're
about
like
it
the
for
closest
3
thing that
hours.
I could come up with was that an asteroid passed through both the Klendathu and Earth, sort of like in a like 100-year period, and it affected all the drinking water, which then
Arjun
altered.
Trivedi, Martha just needs her insulin refilled. No.
Yeah, well,
No.
tell Martha to shut the fuck up because I'm busy.
I gotta figure out why these aliens and humans
And then
are
the Starship
linked.
Troopers theme song, you just play it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Some say a waste of time. Others say an incredible waste of time.
I like that the reporter basically gets Jurassic Park T-Rexed during this sequence too. He's just talking and then he gets like. I thought that
It's
was
a
fun.
violent planet. It's
Yeah.
an ugly planet. Ah! That's what he gets for trying to rape somebody at a boat show.
Yep. They retreat back to the ships after they get demolished. Johnny actually fully kills one, like he fully fights one. Takes a claw to the leg. It makes it seem like he's dead. He's pronounced dead.
But do you notice that he also fights it in the exact way that Doogie Howser told him not to? He blows all its fucking limbs off.
Yeah, and then
is
he still gets stabbed. And then we get another one of the I guess this goes into the third act, another act break where we get the do you want to know more? But the I had to watch this over and over because Sky Marshal for some reason made my brain go, what the fuck is this the person called? Sky Marshal Deans resigns. Natasha Mahat Maru is the new Sky Marshal. The pundits are at odds. Some think that the bugs are smart, but the other side is like calling them smart is actually an insult to humans.
Well, that's something that a Nazi would say.
Exactly. It's subhuman. It's kind of like the Palestine-Israel conflict. I'm not going to get into it, but that's sort of another Nazi situation that's happening. The fleet's all fucked up. We see the fleet like landing back on the main space station, and the ships are all messed up. I guess if you're gonna sit stationary in space above a planet that's shooting fucking nuclear weapons off, it's the best way I could think of what's happening. Those like blue space orbs, they're all messed up. We get a shot of like the triage in the medical bay. And there's a guy who's like, my legs. And he's just shooting viscera and blood, and people are dying everywhere. I love that.
But these are the moments in the Verhoeven movies that are the best, right? Where it's like this overwhelming, exaggerated gore that would never, like, even like in real life, gore would be, horrible to look at, but it would never be this crazy. I don't think.
It's the chaos of like the backgrounds of.
I mean, Arjun, you've been in probably some sticky situations, right?
Yeah.
You were a doctor during COVID.
It's been crazy. I was working in the ICU. I've been through these kind of situations for sure. But I do think it'd be kind of interesting to do a medical drama based on the ICU staff on the bug planet at Starship Troopers.
It'd be a lot like making a Halo video game about the space cops, ODST.
Or like a prequel where it's what's her name, the teacher from the beginning.
How Rue McClanahan gets fucking her eyes burned.
No, I want like a strict, like almost like a Grey's Anatomy, like emotional, like people are like relationships and people are hooking up with like people. Like there's like all this drama that's happening between people, but then you see like people coming in with these like this like bug like the entire like thing just like impale on them. It's like trying to save them.
That's actually a really good idea. Like I think HBO Max, if you're listening, copyright, because that's
And Glenmore. That's whiskey.
That's whiskey. You just fucking do like a gulp, gulp, gulp from the bottle.
Yeah. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Wow.
All right.
What a glowing advertisement. Hashtag ad, not an ad.
Do you want to see more?
Do you want to know more?
Do you want to drink more?
Carmen sees that Johnny is a casualty on the board of the fucking just. Did you notice during when it's showing the casualties, it doesn't leave like M, like it's just one letter that's just like of the names. It doesn't like you don't see like a bunch of different letters, like first letters in the alphabet. What am I trying to say? It's all like M names that are going past. Like it never leaves the M's. That's something that I noticed during.
Just to show you how many people died. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
like if the M's are fucked, like holy shit.
Yeah.
Wait till you get to the B's or the J's, like.
But we do then see him in
a pass are the B's and the J's.
The B's and the J's and the 6s and the 9s. We do see old Rico in a back to tank, and we see like I guess it's like nanobots or something that's fixing up the hole in his leg. I thought that looked really gnarly. Like that's the only part that I was like kind of squeamish about because it was so like.
That part? You were squeamish about that part of
when it did the close up of his leg, like the wound on his leg, like closing.
I mean, honestly, the thing that got me the most in this movie was the bruise on Diz's neck, where I was like, oh, that bruise looks brutal. Like that was like the thing. You know, there's lots of gross, weird shit in this movie, but that's the one that I was like, ooh, I feel the pain there. Whereas the guy getting his brain sucked out, I was like, cool. That looks cool. I like that.
This is when we get introduced to the new infantry soldiers.
Actually, I'll take that back. When that guy got his arm snapped in half, that was when I went.
That was pretty gnarly. Gabriel from The Walking Dead and that other lady who I've never seen before, but she's a huge badass. Because literally, somebody's like, "I heard the new lieutenant's a real hard ass," and she just kicked the shit out of Ace.
Well, yeah, Ace would be the one to say that. Yeah.
He says, I hear he's a real nut buster. And then it turns out to be Michael Ironside. But
it's a good reveal. I kind of wish it was a little bit, it took a little bit more time to indulge itself. I think this scene. So like Michael Ironside obviously is like, has such crazy presence. Like he's big and his voice is deep and he just is intense as an actor. Mm-hmm. And you know, you see the hand, like it's like in the shot, he spins around, and I kind of wish it took a little bit more time for it to like, you know, just maybe resonate on his voice, like have his voice come in before you see his face, and then have him do almost like a full monologue before he like it pulls up on his back and he turns around. But I guess that's not really a Verhoeven style, you know. Verhoeven is like straight to the point. We know who it is. I'm not going to try and trick you.
I think it's Noel last week said it best that Paul Verhoeven is not subtle.
No, it's like he's holding a gun to your head while you're watching his movies constantly.
Yeah.
You're watching still? Yes.
Look at these breasts. Mm-hmm. It's him. I always want to call it striptease, but it's showgirls. Look at this nudity.
This is exciting, and this was exciting to me as a kid when I first watched this movie. I always like knew who Michael Ironside was, and he was in a ton of stuff that I was, you know, semi-familiar with. I was familiar with his voice almost, I think, more than anything else, because he was in a bunch of cartoon shows and stuff as well. It was kind of like a running gag to like have him show up just to be like a one-off episode of something or whatever. He was, of course, the voice of Sam Fisher in the Splinter Cell video games for many years, which I loved. Mm-hmm. But it's exciting. And then he is clearly the coolest character in this movie up until he dies. But even his death is pretty cool because he shows some sort of weakness, which is like, great.
The thing that he says here is linked to that. He says, "You don't do your job, I shoot you." And then we'll get to the flying bugs in a sec, but at this point they go back down to Planet P at this point. They start attacking it, and we see a cool CGI bug stampede that they carpet bomb, which is the most American thing you can possibly do. It's just fucking carpet bomb everything. And they're in the daytime now, and this is what I was going to say earlier, like, until this turns to shit and we see like the biggest swarm, it seemed like at nighttime they can't figure it out, but in the daytime they're actually, with this new infantry team, they're actually able to like work together to take out the bugs. That said, they hand Johnny Rico a fucking rocket launcher that has a nuke on the end. They find a bug hole and they shoot a nuke into it, and it just vaporizes the whole fucking countryside.
Yep.
I feel like
and then
doing
they get
this
attacked by a big tank bug.
Yeah, but I feel like, you know, nuking a bug hole is super effective, but like, what are the ramifications for the soldiers? You know, like, seems like a not great thing to do. That said, right, the big boy bug comes out of the ground and it shoots napalm out of its face, and also looks great. It kind of looks like a dung beetle a little bit.
Yeah.
And Johnny is fucking crazy. He gets on the back of the bug. He unloads into one spot. Opens up.
He basically makes a hole.
He makes a hole on its back.
He punches a little hole in it. Yeah.
And then he fucking just drops a grenade into it. Super soldier shit. And
this is kind of one of the other things that I really like about this movie, which I did also like about Mars Attacks as well, is the use of color and how like the bugs in this have very green, like comically green blood, like, but then they also have very orange, like it almost looks like a pumpkin level of orange.
That one blows up orange. Even
you get almost like smell and like taste like what they
and it doesn't smell like or taste great. Yeah.
I think it tastes like a Caesar, like a really bad Caesar.
Like a Caesar where the tomato juice went real raw.
Or it just tastes like Sour Patch Kids, which I'd be cool. I'd eat that.
But it's so sour that it actually melts your skin and tongue.
It's just actual napalm. This is delicious. I'm dying.
Their face, you know when your face goes like sour face?
Oh, here comes Drac Attack.
So
Starship Troopers, Space Marines, bugs, and co-ed showers. Thanks, Drac. Friend of the show. We'll have to have him on. What'd you say, Arj?
The not Drac?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What's up, buddy?
The man, the myth, the legend. He always shows up at the last hour.
It's because he gets home from work late, so that's why he shows up to see the end. Yeah,
drop knowledge on us. Right. So, Diz is the squad leader at this. Or sorry, there's a proposal made that now Clancy Brown wants our boy Rico to be the squad leader or the corporal. He picks Diz as the squad leader, and that night, after this big victory of taking down this big boy, they have a party. And at this party, what they have is liquor, footballs, Nerf footballs, and instruments.
A cyber violin.
Cyber violin. But all they can play is Irish jigs, apparently, in this weird
That's
future.
all he knows how to play.
And then Diz is like, come on and dance with me. And you know, Rico being Rico's like, no, I gotta focus on war or whatever. And literally Michael Ironside's like, you know, it's not good to pass up on a good thing. And then Johnny goes and it turns to slow dance, which has always happened in the 90s. They have a slow dance, and then they have a full-on 80s sex, Paul Verhoeven sex scene, which I was watching.
So I really wanted to make it uncomfortable for Diz and the audience. So I did sort of a BDSM thing here where I made her arms get wrapped by her head and her eyes are covered.
I was at work watching this on my lunch break, skipping through.
So you did what my parents did when I first saw this movie while I was watching it with them. Yeah, you need to not watch any more Paul Verhoeven movies at work. It seems like a not safe for work movie.
No, I didn't watch Showgirls at work. I had to watch that at home by myself.
You watched that one in the bathroom at work? Like, bathroom break.
I'll be right back like 12 times throughout the day. Yeah, so but the point of me saying it's an 80s sex scene is like he just shoots these very intimate, like, remember how in action movies in the 80s all the sex scenes are like so elaborate? Like even like Top Gun.
It's because people were
away.
People were trying to figure out like the difference between like what is porn and what is like tasteful and what is not, and like what is real and what is not realistic. At least this one doesn't have a holy shit. Sorry, there's a crazy. Can you hear that? Okay.
No.
It sounds like a fire truck going nuts outside.
Your face is green. I don't know if it's like the dark scene in Buenos Aires where the face goes dark.
It just goes dark on his screen.
Anyway, what I was saying is like the movies they hadn't really figured out what was like borderline inappropriate yet, and like I feel like we're even kind of getting back into that now, where it's like what can we show that isn't like horrifying and uncomfortable, right? If it suits the story, sure, but if it doesn't, because like Showgirls, the sex scenes in that movie are almost like borderline laughable. They're so horny. You're like, holy shit.
I think that the strip scenes are more horny though, because I just keep thinking about that one between Penny and Nomi. That's just like they're basically
just like
having
leg
sex.
humping each other.
Yeah, they're basically just blasting muff on stage.
But I mean, we remember the pool.
Sorry,
the pool.
I wanted to say that last week too, and I kept stopping myself, but you know what?
I'm glad you didn't say that last week, but yeah.
And by last week, I mean 3 days ago.
Yeah. Anyway, so the sex scene in this movie between Diz and Rico is actually not that bad. He's not getting aggressive with the nipple like he did in Striptease. He's just kind of like, it's just they're just going to kiss and they're going to be shirtless.
With the nipple when they kiss, and then
that's
she goes
true.
Right for a
maybe this was him being like, okay, it's time for us to get some revenge on the male nipple now.
Opportunity nipple stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not that bad. It's actually like quite tame, I would say.
But what I really like about this is they're in the throes, but then they get a distress call, and Michael Ironside like busts in. And
we need you out of here in 10 minutes.
Yeah. But then he's like, who's under that blanket? And she's like, and he's like, 20. Give it. You got 20 minutes. And then they
says, make it 20.
Yeah, but then Johnny goes, "Do you think we can?" And she goes, "Yep." So then it's heavily implied that they just finish up that part of it.
Rico giving himself a pretty big sort of like chest pump there. Like, do you think we can do it in 20 minutes? Like, fuck off, Rico.
10
Rico,
minutes.
you can finish it in 5 minutes if you need.
They have 10 minutes to get ready. They have 10 more minutes to have sex.
From what I heard in the original, before they actually did that scene, it was Johnny with Gary Busey's son under the sheets.
Ace is just like,
you know what? I was thinking about that as well. Because I was like, what if, like, I was
just too ahead of its time. It's too ahead of its time. It's too much.
But it was just like his big giant teeth.
If it was made in this end, like now and then for sure.
Yeah, and Michael Ironside would have been like, make it 30. He would have given them extra time.
Jumps in with them.
Yeah. He jumps in with them.
I'm actually into that cut.
He takes his robot hand off.
And it just, yeah.
Starts lubing up his lump. All right, I take that one back.
Your weird fetish shit, Steve. Jesus. Anyway, we just cut to them going to a remote location. This is where we're introduced to the flying bugs, which are fucking nightmare devices. It kills one of the...
Wait, hold on. We're not done laughing at the last thing.
Make it 30.
Throws the hand into the two of them and it just starts going crazy.
No, it's like when you're in college and you put a sock on your door knob so no one comes in. He puts the hand on the holding the zipper shut.
I don't even know how we navigate away from how funny this visual is. Arjun hasn't laughed this hard yet.
Sorry, this is the funniest shit. All right, sorry.
All right. We got to get to.
They go to a remote location.
Something out.
Flying bugs. This is where we get the scene that's like a flying bug comes through, takes one of their own, kills them. Michael Ironside kills the guy who's getting killed by the flying bug, and he's like, if that happens to me, I know you'll do the same. Johnny's acting sergeant at this point.
I gotta say, hold on, like that sequence there where they're walking through this like canyon and there's just like rocks like,
and what they
like,
keep doing
over and over
is they perfectly encapsulate what it's like to see something out of the corner of your eye during this, because
they do, but the rocks would make you be like, there's something here, guys. Like the rocks falling every 5
You're
seconds.
right.
You'd be like, there's something here.
I thought that too. I was like, is nobody going to point out the fact that like we're on a alien infested planet and there's clearly movement
and something is around us? Yeah, but I mean, I understand it's meant to build tension for this sequence, but holy shit, would I not be like, let's just buckle down here for a second, boys, and maybe aim for the rocks,
fire some rounds off into the hills.
Yeah.
But this is where they find the base. And I wrote the scene that Steve keeps sending everyone. You had a couple drinks the other night and sent me this scene during a conversation, I think 4 times, because you were so.
No, it's not that I didn't. It's not that I didn't realize that I had already sent it to you. It's that I just wanted to keep sending it to you. Because of how good.
That's not what I'm saying. I know that you had fully intended to keep making me look at it, and I kept watching it every time.
Because it's so good, but I knew that if I only sent it to you once, you'd only watch it once. So I wanted you to watch it as many times as I wanted you to watch it, which was 4, maybe 5.
Yeah.
No, I respect that hustle, because like honestly, like sometimes when I get a message from nurses like that, it's like I don't think it's important. I just won't reply back to it. I'm gonna be completely honest. But if it's like a repeat message like 3 or 4 times, I do probably.
Yeah, it's your nurse Michael Ironside, and she's like, "Doctor,
this person is
she's got her fingers inside of an open hole in a skull, and she just says, Dr. Arjun, they sucked his brains out."
I paid that shit.
And you're like, holy shit, maybe I should go check this out.
I have a question about this moment too, where the survivor, who's a guy from Stuff, he's in everything, but he implies that like the bugs can get in your brain, but later we see that the mother brain like literally sucks her brain out. Is there some sort of like plot line that was just this happens in this movie a couple times where they like introduce a thing and they don't really follow up? Is the bugs in the brain just a theory in that moment that was just kind of said as like a MacGuffin or a red herring?
I think that the implication is that just like Neil Patrick Harris has the ability to use telepathy, so does the brain bug.
Yeah.
Even though it can. Okay. So when it sucks your brain out, what I think it is doing is like literally taking all of your memories. So it has it now stored inside of it. Like it eats your brains and your memories.
Because that's what it seems like when it sucks Xander's brain out. It seems like it's absorbing his like knowledge. And all of his
but it also
too.
can. But when they say it gets into your brain, I think it means it can like, like be like, now you want to jump off of a cliff, and like people will just jump off a cliff or something.
So he also says like, just like the way that we're trying to go in and steal their soldiers, they're trying to steal our people to see how we tick. That's when I went, oh, wow. Because like, again, I watched this movie when I was 12 years old, right? Or 13, assuming I watched a year after it came out. I didn't read all the subtext. I just saw the things that were happening on the screen and then lived for 25 years. You know what I mean? So I've forgotten more about this movie than I remembered easily. I didn't remember any of this last kind of sequence. So much like that, they go outside and they start getting swarmed by the flying ones, the ground level ones, and the big boys. And they do have a base, but they find out very quickly that this base cannot handle getting swarmed by like not just thousands, not even I think there were millions of these bugs implied by the wide shot at the end as they're fleeing, and everybody gets decimated except for maybe I think 6 people escape from this bit.
Yeah, it's the end for many that we have grown to love.
This is also a long battle sequence too. This is probably like 10 minutes of the movie of them just fighting. Michael Ironside gets cut in half. Johnny puts
he gets
him
his
down.
legs bitten off.
Yeah.
He gets like he falls into like a sinkhole or something and he's, like and they pull him out and he's got no legs, just as I predicted as a child, which obviously it's gonna happen, but
yeah,
I
a
was
big boy comes up. And then after the big boy comes out through the camp, Diz frags him. Diz throws a frag right in his mouth and blows him up. But then she gets murked by one of the land bugs. The base gets overrun by thousands of bugs, and they barely escape with a few men.
Okay, well, I want to talk about this a little bit more. I don't want to just breeze through it.
No. I just wanted to set the stage for you because I know you're going to have lots of stuff to say.
Well, because like I'm thinking about Michael Ironside, right, as this character who, he's the one who says, do you want to live forever? He's like, if you don't do your job, then you're going to die. He's the one who convinces Rico. Rico essentially says that he's like his mentor and that he's like the one person that he looks up to. His dad even knows it.
It'd be great if his character name was Iron Michael Side.
His name is
Iron Michael Side.
All right, yeah, that would be pretty good. But you've already been kind of shown that this man is unflappable and he is indestructible. He's a true leader of the infantry. He might not be the smartest, but he's definitely the smartest when it comes to this type of scenario. We see, like you said, the guy get pulled off by one of those pulled away by one of those. I was thinking about that tent scene earlier that we created. He's pulled away by one of the flying ones, and rather than shoot the bug, he shoots the guy, kills him. I'd expect any of you to do the same. And then, like they move on from that. And as he's looking down at his legs, he's like, kill me, Rico! Shoot me, Rico!
You know what you have to do. Yeah.
And Rico does. And this is the moment where you're like, okay, so what is he scared of here? Is he scared of what's going to happen to him after? Is he going to be torn apart by bugs because they're not going to be able to get him out because he's legless? Is he scared of going back to Earth and being that guy who stamps people's sheets? He can't even really do much more than that anymore. It's like, what does he fear? You don't really know in the moment, but you do know that he does experience fear in the same way that the rest of us do, right? Like up into that moment, you're kind of meant to believe that he is absolutely fearless, but that's not true. He feels fear, man. He feels fear like the rest of us. And I think that that's pretty cool. Even though I would have loved to have seen him survive and come back as like a guy with like weird gazelle robot legs. And be like, all right, follow me.
He gets those blades that people who have lost their legs, but they still want to be marathon runners.
Yeah, or he just gets like a bottom half that's a tank. Like, dun, 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 dun. You want to live forever?
That's good. At what point it's like, the thought experiment, like if you remove all the parts of a ship and replace the parts, at what point is it like a new ship? Or like
is it no longer the ship anymore? Yeah.
You regenerate your cells
when is it a new
lifetime,
ship? Yeah.
Or like
it's just his head.
Yeah.
Like, dun,
at what point is he no longer himself and just robot parts?
Eventually you replace the head and it's just that one prosthetic hand that he had earlier as the head. And it talks like this. All right, you motherfuckers.
He gets more ornery too somehow.
Yeah.
Speaking of, so Johnny goes through a lot of loss in this like 5-minute period, But it's just he's so dumb that he's unfazed. Like he loses his mentor, and then he loses his current girlfriend because she gets stabbed after she kills the big boy, and she dies in his arms. And then Johnny's like, "Oh, Carmen's here." Like Johnny fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Actually, he doesn't know that she's here. She knows that.
Right. Carmen knows that Johnny's there because Xander comes up to the front. Xander comes up to the front. He's like, Johnny's in the back of the ship there. She's flying all erratically.
He's not. Like Xander is kind of a dipshit, but I'm glad that in
he's like
the heat of battle,
no worse than Johnny. He's
pilot.
just
a guy. Yeah, he's just some fucking dildo, like the rest of the men in this movie.
He's dark-haired Chad.
It's true. Yeah.
So then Johnny tries to order a bombardment of Planet P, and gets immediately like negative. Also, great job, guys, from that one captain who's from stuff. We didn't talk about it, but that actor who plays the woman captain, she's from things. I recognize her from something that I watched recently as well. Maybe
she's in this movie and she gets cut in half by a door, I think.
That's
right?
true. She gets cut in half by a door in literally like 10 minutes. After he tries to order the bombardment, he's shut down, and then he's like, okay, fine, basically. He's like, okay, well, they know what's best. Then they see a massive fleet of the ships, like the bigger ships, have mobilized, so something's a brewing. But then we get a smash cut over to like the funeral for the fallen comrades, and I couldn't help but just laugh that when somebody dies in this universe, they put them in a fucking metal coffin and shoot them into space.
That happens in like so many movies, though, like so many space movies.
And when it happens in those movies as well, I go, littering is littering, my guy.
I don't know. I think if I had the option to be shot into space rather than like buried in the ground or burned into ashes and sprinkled into the sea or whatever, it's like it's no different than that, I guess. Like, what else are they gonna do?
I think it's part of like the like like whenever I think of space war movies and stuff, I think of like they have like Admiral of the Fleet, right? Which is like also like a naval thing and also something like in space. And what I understand is like if you're a soldier who's in the Navy and you die in battle at sea, they bury you at sea, and that's like the honorary thing. And then I think in space, like with a Space Force or whatever, that would be the honorary way to go kind of thing. I don't know.
If you're fighting in the Sun Wars of 2545, they yeet you into the sun if you die in active battle.
Okay. All right.
In the year 2545.
Like space is the universe, right? Like,
yeah.
I get that. Okay, look, I'm not discrediting.
Jason just hates cool scenes in movies.
I liked it, and I didn't think it was uncool.
He called it littering, yeah.
I thought it'd be funny to bring up the fact that, like, what I would have thought was cool is if they zoomed out and there was like a giant space cross implying that this was like a space graveyard, and there was a bunch of other coffins floating
They're all
around.
just floating. It's like a planet Saturn, but it's all just caskets like floating.
Also, I was fully ready for when they pulled the flag off the top of the coffin and it went into like that holding compartment. I thought it was going to get burned up. I don't know how I don't remember anything about this movie. I've seen this movie. I thought it was going to get burned up and then like the ashes maybe dispelled into space.
There are lots of, actually that would be kind of cool. A cremation and then they blow your ashes out. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, because then it becomes stardust.
But I've also never seen that in a movie before, which I'm like, how has that not been done? That would be very cool.
The coffin hits another asteroid and takes it off trajectory.
It's
LA, New York.
Takes out Costa Rica.
Yeah. Whoopsies.
I know that's Central America, but you know, that's the first South American thing I could think of. Right. So Xander and Carmen are the pilots. Carmen sees Johnny. Johnny orders the bombardment.
Listen, we've already got up to Diz's fucking death. Like we get our first reunion of the pack of
Carl
teenage
shows
kids.
up looking like a straight up Nazi. He thinks that there's proof of intelligence based on this fact, and he doesn't want to nuke Planet P.
Well, he has like as a high ranking, like I guess he's a colonel now, right?
He's Colonel Carl.
Colonel Carl, and he they figure out that there's a brain bug, or at least they have evidence that there's a brain bug.
Right, and they didn't know whether or not, like, he thought there was a brain bug, and they used this unit to go down there.
The Roughnecks,
get murdered to find out whether or not there was the brain bug there. So that's
just another reason why he's got the soulless, sunken eyes of a heartless. He's not heartless. He just has to deal with it. And you can tell at points he's like, man, I'm really like, I'm far gone now that I feel absolutely nothing for my former friends who I promised on the last day of high school that we'd be friends forever, but I literally sent them to their deaths. Yeah.
So they're going back to capture the alien brain. He offers Johnny lieutenant, and he accepts. Rico's Roughnecks, they're getting ready to head back to the planet P to get the smart bug. Their ship takes a hit from an alien blast, and this is when Carmen gets Xander, and basically only they escape because the captain, the scene we were just talking about, she gets cut in half by a door, and I thought the effects were great here.
They were
for the
they
ship
were very
getting
good.
wrecked, but this is when I noticed that, like, that's not how space works. The ship's falling with no gravity.
All right, don't act like you know how space works.
Listen, I asked the doctor how space works, and he had the same response. Okay. Yeah. So Xander and Carmen managed to narrowly escape. She crashes down on Planet P in one of the alien, like sinkhole areas. Bug cave is what I wrote here, the technical term. Xander gets stabbed in the ass, or that's what it looked like, because they start fighting the aliens, and the way that the talon comes down, it looks like he got stabbed directly in the ass, but it is actually just his leg.
He sucked his anus out.
Carmen gets he sucked his anus out. Carmen gets stabbed through the shoulder, and then at this point, Johnny is like, "Come with me. We got to find them." And takes off a small crew, takes Gabriel and somebody else. Doesn't matter.
Who is it? It's two people.
It's two people.
It is Gabriel, and is it Teeth? It's not Teeth. Teeth's dead, isn't he?
Yeah.
No. Fuck, I can't remember.
Johnny knows she's still alive and goes to help her. They split groups. Xander and Carmen see the alien queen. The mother stabs Xander in the brain and sucks him dry. Johnny makes it and has a nuke, and he's doing that thing where he's like, almost like Jurassic
You know what
Park
this
again.
is? You're a smart bug, don't you? Bing, bang, boom, or whatever.
Rescues Carmen.
Yeah.
Johnny gives Gabriel from The Walking Dead the nuke because he gets stabbed in a similar effect that you were talking about earlier that looked really good. Like, he got stabbed across like here, and it just like opens, and he goes down and he's like, sacrifice me. He holds the nuke. It goes off. The cave caves in, so they're on the other side of it. When they get out, it's revealed that they actually somehow, even though that fucking room got nuked, this part was kind of weird to me because that room got nuked, but on the other from another cave entrance, they pull the like alien brain out in like a net.
Well, see, this made me think that maybe there's more than one brain bug.
Yeah, but it was the same brain bug because it was the one that got its like brain sucker thing cut off.
Oh, and this is the thing that I wanted to talk about earlier.
Still shooting out that goo.
So you know how like it sucks Xander's brains out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks amazing. His head goes concave. It's so good.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then it goes for her, and it looks probably the most disturbing imagery in this movie. Aside from Dizzy's neck bruise, is the tendril coming out and it just covered in like goo, and it looks like sort of almost like a praying mantis arm. But she brought a knife to a nuke fight, and she fucking sliced his tendril off with it.
The foreshadowing in this movie is
what you want.
Unparalleled.
It's amazing.
That's good. I didn't even pick up on that, and that's
I didn't pick up on that either.
Remember, anytime you're not gonna bring your knife because it weighs like 25 grams too much on your pack or whatever, that you might need it to stop yourself from getting your brain sucked
I've played
out.
a lot of video games over the years, and especially survival horror games, you always fucking just load up on as many shivs as possible because they're always going to be the thing that separates you from zombie.
So, I mean, let's just assume that these caves are like winding and crazy, and they're everywhere.
Maybe the alien
the nuke goes off. Well, if the alien understands what a nuke is, understands that a nuke could get down there,
it was already fleeing while the main crew was
all of its bug soldiers are kind of creating a wall in front of it as it goes backwards. We don't know where it goes. It could have some sort of like tunnel that is, nuke proof or something, or like even just it knows if it goes down here, then all of the explosion will be blown out through, chutes that it's created, almost like chimneys or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just like we don't know how everyone has psychic powers in this movie, we don't know how this happens.
Well, what they see the people cheering, which was also kind of weird because as they leave the cave, they're like everybody's cheering. They pull the brain bug out. Colonel Carl shows up. He goes over and touches it, and he basically determines that, it's afraid, and they cheer.
Yeah. Which is really fucked up too when you think about it. If you think about it for more than 2 seconds, you're like, oh wow, these guys are overjoyed that they're creating fear.
Yeah, and well, in addition to that, he kind of Johnny says kind of a thing where like you put the idea in my head psychically to let me know where Carmen was, and he's like, I don't know, maybe I did. And then we get another like, do you want to know more? Showing them just torturing the brain bug and like jamming things in it with the censored sign on it and stuff. And
the brain bug is a piece of shit though, right? Like it's not like he was fucking killing so many like people and stabbing their brain in and sucking them out.
Yeah, but he's just trying to figure out how to survive. He was stealing their brains because he didn't want to die. I don't know if anybody is good in this. Neil Patrick Harris is also a piece of shit. Everyone's a piece of shit in this movie.
Terrible.
Everyone's a piece of shit.
And I would say that arguably the brain bug is less of a piece of shit than any of the human beings in this movie. Yeah.
And like
the thing that freaked me out the most about this entire movie, all the gore, I think the craziest thing was like the weird lips that the brain bug had. It looked like, I don't know, I couldn't like open like a tangerine and look at the insides again because it was just like
for a while.
I think that the moment of showing the face of the brain
it's
bug,
like a sphincter mixed with actual human lips. Like
earlier
it's
in
like
the
lips
movie,
and a
where they show the alien on the ground and you see its eye looking up at it, like it's like a little lobster eye. That was like a kind of a foreshadowing that these things are more sentient than they're giving them credit for.
It's scared. It looks scared. Yeah,
like it looks like a cow getting like blap to the head. The final line of the movie is like, "Come on, you apes, do you want to live forever?"
Yeah, it does sort of like a join up today. It's because it says like they will fight again and they'll win. It's like, okay, yeah.
So
I guess we should join up.
It's funny that is the end of the movie because the way this movie ends feels like there should be another whole hour of movie or something. Like it doesn't feel like it sets it up for sequels that do happen, but like I want an actual sequel at the same quality of this movie. But with that, it's time to play a game.
Oh God.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
You know the name of the game.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
It's time to guess the MPAA rating for this movie. Now, the MPAA certificate number is the number at the end of each movie that signifies that it's been given a rating from PG to R, from G-rated to R to NC-17. Anyway, there's a 5-digit number at the end of the movie. I botched that. That was stupid. At any rate, there's a 5-digit number at the end of the movie that's the certificate rating that the MPAA gives every movie. I'm going to give you guys a new hint. Instead of giving you the first two numbers, I'm going to tell you that there's only two numbers in this 5-digit number. I'm going to give you each two guesses Arjun, what's the MPAA rating for this movie?
3.
And then the next 4 digits?
Jason, what you said was so fucking confusing. I absolutely have no idea what you meant by that.
There's 5 numbers, 1 to 5.
There's 5 numbers in the 5-digit number, but there's only 2 numbers in that 5-digit number.
What? I don't know what that means though.
Okay, so you know how there's 5 numbers in the certificate number?
Yeah.
Right? There's only 2 numbers represented in that 5-digit number, and Arjun already has one of the numbers correct.
So do I guess second one?
Well, just
so.
say the rest of the numbers.
So 5 numbers, and these numbers are between 1 and 5.
It's 5 numbers.
I did.
And this week, the hint is there's only 2 numbers. And you got one of the numbers right. And this is still part of your first guess.
7. So 3, 7. 4, 5, 9, 2.
Lower. Once again, Steve, it's your turn. There's only 2 numbers in this certificate number.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Arjun, once again, there's only 2 different numbers.
Oh, there's only 2 different. Okay. Okay.
What's
Now
that?
I understand.
Okay.
I didn't know what you meant by that.
Let me just tell you, Steve, you were on the right track with your first 2 numbers.
Okay.
This is the closest we're ever going to get to anybody getting this correct.
So 3 and 4 are right, Arjun.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of 3 and 4 over and over again. You just have to guess it right.
I'm still confused. I don't know.
I just got it on my first guess, and his response to my guess, I understood, but it took me a second.
I've had a long day. I had clinic this morning, and I drove from Michigan to Toronto. And I walked in. I ignored my family to come on here. I'm like, I gotta go upstairs right when I walked in.
All right, guess it.
3,
Guess the number.
4, 8.
No, it's 3 or 4. It's a combination of 3 and 4 over until you get it.
It's a combination of 3 and 4.
It'll only be 3s and 4s.
It'll only be 3s and 4s. And it's a sequence.
It'll be like 3, 4, 4, 4, 3.
Okay, so okay. So 3, 4, 4, 3, 4.
Oh, so close. Steve, do you want to take a final guess?
3, 4, 3, 3, 4. Fuck.
3, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA.
I got 2 "You're a Winner" buttons to press. Here is what they sound like.
You win. Perfect.
And but neither of you got it this week. It was 34343. Thank you for playing the MPAA game. I'm gonna actually get worse at explaining it, and that was probably the easiest it'll ever be. And also,
Listen, if you had explained it properly, I would have maybe got it, but you didn't.
Listen, it's that time of the evening where we get the shit out of here. Let's listen to our final thoughts.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Arjun, I know it's way past your bedtime, and I've also made it a tradition around here to let the guest go first. So why don't you give us your final thoughts for the movie Starship Troopers?
Sure. I mean, it's an excellent movie. As I said, I think it has a lot of social implications as well as nostalgic memories for like a lot of us, especially like us and millennials. And uh, I'm happy that you guys invited me on the show to discuss it. I think that this is a lot of fun. But I think we covered the gist of it. I think we really went into a great amount of depth and detail on it. So I have nothing more really to add right now.
If you had to give it a rating, either a number rating or just a funny rating, what would you rate this movie?
What is the scale for the funny, and what is the scale for
it's
the
not
overall?
this isn't a game. This is abstract.
Okay, so star eyes and a wide smiley face for the first one, and then I'd say a solid 9 out of 10 for the other one.
All right. Well, thank you, Arjun. Thank you. Steve.
Oh my God.
What are your final thoughts?
This movie is probably one of my favorite movies. If I had to put it in a top 10 category of favorite movies, I probably would. I don't know where I'd put it in there, but I think it might be there. And if it didn't fall in the top 10, it would definitely be in the top 20. Paul Verhoeven is one of my favorite directors, even though last week maybe proved that he needs to think a little bit harder about the way he represents certain things on screen. This movie shows that when he does think about other things on screen, it's great, and I love it. I like that he's so adverse to fascism, but he's so easily made a movie that was basically just fascist propaganda in the most compelling and hilarious way possible. Not compelling for you to be a fascist, but compelling for you to realize how silly and insane fascism is. I will probably keep watching this movie over and over again. It's surprisingly not as problematic as I thought it would be so many years later. There are definitely some things in there that are, but I don't think that they weigh the movie down in the way that you would classically think that they would. If I had to give this movie a rating, I'd probably just let it suck my brains out because it did, and it always will.
Thank you, Steve. Fantastic. I'll get through my final thoughts very quickly here. It holds up for sure. It's a fun watch. I really liked the CGI. It held up. It could have easily looked insane, the CGI, but it didn't. I don't know if I watched a version that was like an HD remaster or something, because I swear like movies from this era did not have this level of CGI. I compared this a lot to Showgirls cinematography wise, and there are for sure similarities. Paul Verhoeven definitely has like a signature style that you can see in this, and the dialogue is clunky, similarly to Showgirls. Also, the score. I'm a music person, and the score in this movie kept me like I kept listening to the stings and stuff. I give it a 3.7 out of 5. I highly recommend it to anybody that's never seen it, but it's like you were saying, Arjun, like millennials have seen this movie. I'm not sure if I need to slog through the 4 sequels, and this movie leaves it a bit open-ended, but there's no way they don't just continuously decrease in quality as they go on. And Steve let us know that the last 2 are animated, so they might be like their own thing depending on the quality of the animation. You tell me, viewer. I give this an asteroid heading into deep space, but it gets its path changed and hits Buenos Aires when a ship collides with it. Arjun, before we get out of here, do you have anything you want to plug?
I mean, I have nothing I want to plug right now, to be honest. If you have any hormonal issues, I'm an endocrinologist, so I mean, I'm gonna be starting my clinic up in August of 2024. So if you need any assistance or any help, I'm there to serve you.
That's amazing. That's the best plug I think we've ever had on this show.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly plug the fact that you can find us on all social media basically at Hey Did You See This One? And if you go over to where you can find our audio podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by searching Hey Did You See This One? We have 85 episodes up in audio form now. So please go and listen to those. Please watch us on YouTube. This episode will be up tomorrow morning. Arjun, once again, thank you for coming on. You were a fantastic guest. You're welcome back anytime. You're my doctor now. And Arjun, if there was one question that you could ask to the people, it's the name of the show. What would you ask the people?
About the movie, or
no, just like if you could ask one question to the people, it's the name of the show. What would you ask the people?
The question I would ask them is, hey, did you see this one?
That was funny.
I love how it catches everybody off guard. I love it so
I mean,
much.
you should probably tell them to begin with, but whatever.
I thought that it was
it's funnier. I like that Arjun had to like look at his phone and be like, what show am I on again?
What the fuck is this nonsense?
Are we off air?